The story opens in a grand mansion where a maid offers to take a stack of reports from Liad. He declines her help, insisting on delivering the documents to his mother personally since he plans to visit her anyway. It has been 1,000 years since the ritual of reincarnation, and 8 years since the guardian knight Vance of the Heavenly Empire was reborn into this new life as Liad. Reaching his destination, Liad knocks and enters, greeting his foster mother, the Fialis Countess Muria. As he looks at her, he suddenly flinches, sensing a spark of energy. She quickly apologizes, realizing her immense mana caused her charm magic to activate involuntarily. She notes that despite his mana being transparent and colorless, he possesses enough strength to defend against her accidental spell. She laments that she is a lacking mother for burdening him, but he immediately reassures her. He expresses his deep gratitude to her for adopting him from the monastery and vows to do anything for her sake. Overjoyed by his words, she pulls him into a tight, suffocating hug. Their moment is interrupted when a young girl barges in, demanding to know what they are doing. This is Canon Fiales, Mayuria's daughter. She complains that Liad is hogging their mother's attention when she had been waiting patiently for her to rest. The Countess apologizes and invites her closer, and Canon happily embraces her mother. Liad observes that while his little sister is extremely affectionate toward Muria, she is quite cold toward him. Turning to him, Kanan dismissively mentions that a maid has prepared tea and suggests he go have some. Muria gently asks why she refuses to call him Big Brother, but Kanan waves the suggestion off. She declares she will only use that title if something happens to make her want to, pointing out that he refuses to show her his magic. She is frustrated that she doesn't even know what color his mana is. Muria explains that colorless mana makes it impossible to tell what element a mage possesses, though she admits she is also curious to see his power. Liad vaguely replies that he might show them if the opportunity arises, though internally he simply wishes he could get along better with her. Kanan fiercely hugs her mother, declaring that Muria belongs to her and refusing to let anyone take her away. Unsure how to handle his sister's intense possessiveness, Liad awkwardly excuses himself, stating he is going to have some tea. Later, Liad relaxes outside as Marietta, the head maid who also oversees the siblings' education, serves him. He compliments the magnificent flavor of the tea and invites her to join him for a cup. She initially refuses, insisting he shouldn't pay heed to a mere maid, but he persists. He playfully argues that since she teaches him so many other subjects, she should also teach him about tea while they drink together. Realizing he is simply trying to give her a break, she sighs with a smile and takes a seat, admitting he knows exactly how to invite a lady. As they talk, Marietta explains the origins of their refreshments. The sugar loaf is from the Human Empire, and the tea leaves are imported from the Holy Empire. She reflects that such international trade is only possible because of the anti-war domain, a barrier created 1,000 years ago that ended the war between the 7 empires. Her words send Liad into a deep reverence as he recalls his past life. A millennium ago, he was a knight serving the Heavenly Emperor, Arsmeria Rune Media. He remembers the majesty of her visage and the pride he felt serving her. To stop the bloodshed, she sacrificed her own lifespan to cast the anti-war domain. Before the end, they decided to undergo the ritual of reincarnation, so they could one day see the peaceful world with their own eyes. Now, living as Liad after being adopted by Countess Muria, he is still searching for her. Marietta interrupts his thoughts, noticing he has drifted off again. She shrewdly guesses that he is worried about his relationship with Kanan. She suggests that since a guest is arriving soon, he should try talking to his sister while they wait in the parlor. He thanks her for the advice and rushes over. Finding Kanan at the parlor entrance, he politely opens the door and gestures for her to head in first. She hesitates at the door but manages to thank him. He immediately takes her hand, guiding her inside with the polite phrase, "This way, my lady." The gesture shocks her and she pulls away, shouting that there is no need to go that far. He apologizes, realizing his mistake. He recalls that Arsmeria used to get angry at him for being too formal as well. Softening her tone, Kanan admits she snapped because she was worried. Time with their mother is precious and having a guest reduces that time. He smiles, noting how much she truly loves Muria. She excitedly agrees and asks if he feels the same. When he confirms he does, they share a brief moment of understanding. Suddenly, the door opens and the guest enters. It is Victor Roswald, the eldest son of a viscount serving under the countess. Liad extends a hand to greet him, but Victor completely ignores him, walking past to greet Kanan instead. Liad realizes he is being snubbed for being an adopted child. She returns the greeting politely but immediately attempts to dismiss herself, stating she has fulfilled her duty and wishes to return to her room so the two men can enjoy themselves. Victor flinches and quickly stops her, insisting he came specifically to discuss her magic. Kanan halts in her tracks. The guest continues, noting that as the esteemed daughter of Countess Muria, she must possess outstanding talent, even though her hair and eyes do not resemble her mother's. He remarks that since she will one day inherit the title, he wishes to see her power for himself. Liad recognizes this as a clear provocation. Although Kanan looks displeased, he can see she intends to accept the challenge. She asks how he would like her to demonstrate her power. Smirking, Victor suggests the parlor is inappropriate for magic and leads them outside to a clearing in the forest. Once they arrive, Victor explains that the Fialis family has a tradition of a trial by magic to measure one's strength. He assures her they won't fight for real. She simply needs to show him her power. He then turns to Liad, asking why he followed them. The former knight calmly replies that since this is a trial and not a duel, his presence shouldn't be an issue. Victor sneers, reminding him that he is not related to the Countess by blood, but allows him to stay as long as he doesn't interfere. Liad remains on guard, convinced the other is planning something, given that he singled Kanan out and lured her into this secluded spot. Victor suddenly adds a condition to the trial. If he wins, he wants a request granted. Kanan questions this, noting she thought he only wanted a demonstration. He argues that a direct battle is the simplest way to measure strength and taunts her, asking if she plans to run away. She coldly replies that she looks down on individuals who use such coercive methods. Dismissing her words with a laugh, Victor unleashes an evil spirit without even announcing the start. Kanan freezes in terror, closing her eyes as the entity rushes toward her. At the last second, Liad intervenes, blasting the spirit away with his own magic. He fiercely condemns Victor for launching a sneak attack, asking if this dishonorable conduct befits a noble he holds in such high esteem. Victor is momentarily shaken but quickly masks his fear with a hesitant laugh. He accuses Liad of breaking the rules by interfering. The brother counters that a sneak attack cannot be considered a proper contest. If Victor intends to use underhanded tactics, he will protect Kanan regardless of the rules because she is family. Annoyed, Victor sneers, mocking Liad's weak, colorless mana and calling him a random mongrel who doesn't deserve to be the Countess's child. Before he can finish the insult, Kanan shouts at him to stop slandering her big brother, stepping forward to defend him. Victor laughs at her use of the title, ridiculing their family as a bunch of unrelated strangers playing house. Suddenly, Victor's hand begins to shake violently. The charm he is holding surges with dark energy, draining his mana uncontrollably until he collapses. Liad realizes the magic tool has gone berserk and is summoning all the contained evil spirits at once. Kanan watches in horror as a swarm of multicolored spirits emerges. Liad places a hand on her shoulder, asking her to trust him. He explains that since her magic falls under the healing branch, she is at a disadvantage against spirits of multiple elements. Refusing to let her get hurt, he transfers a glowing energy into her, causing the color of her mana to change. Victor snaps at them, demanding to know what they are whispering about. In a blind rage, he hurls one of the evil spirits directly at the siblings. Kanan reacts instinctively, opening her arms to release a glowing orb that expands into a protective shield. Victor is baffled, recognizing the barrier as a shield of flame, an impossibility for a mage known only for healing. Kanan herself is amazed, realizing she is wielding her big brother's power. Refusing to accept this, Victor sneers that a flickering flame will be easily smothered by a gale. He commands more spirits to attack, but she deftly defeats them all. Watching her dodge and cancel out his attacks with a shield of wind, he is struck by disbelief. He finally understands the nature of Liad's colorless mana. It is not empty, but rather holds the potential to shift into any element. Liad suddenly warns Kanan that an earth spirit is attacking from below, instructing her to dodge and counter. The ground trembles, but she successfully executes the move. When she asks how he predicted the attack, he simply tells her to relax and let the flow of mana guide her. Following his advice, she uses the shield of wind to launch herself into the air, effectively flying. Victor glares menacingly, desperate to turn the tide. He unleashes his remaining spirits of water and darkness, shouting that they have yet to be used. However, Kanan extends both hands, forming dual barriers that effortlessly obliterate the threats. As she lands gracefully, Liad declares that all the spirits have been defeated. Defeated, Victor looks down, muttering that his father assured him this method would beat her. She retorts that while he relied on his father's power, she made use of her big brother's magic. Liad gently corrects her, insisting that she was only able to ward off the spirits because of her own strength, and declares her the winner. Victor snaps. Blaming Liad for his failure, he draws a dagger and charges. The former knight clenches his fist, disgusted by how far the noble has trampled on the chivalric code, and vows not to forgive him. Liad analyzes the movement of muscle and bone, visualizing the path of the lunging short sword. He utilizes the Guardian Art Fist form, shield of the weaponless knight, allowing the attack's momentum to run its course with minimal force. With this technique, the former knight dodges Victor's strike and counters, sending the noble rolling across the ground. Victor screams, calling him a monster. Liad notices a small scratch on his cheek from the blade. Kanan rushes to him, crying out, "Big brother!" He dismisses it as a minor injury, but she touches his cheek, tears falling as she insists that him getting hurt is the same as her getting hurt. She casts healing magic on him. Liad marvels internally that despite her exhaustion from the fight, she is such a kind little angel. Suddenly, Kanan blushes, flustered that he called her an angel. She reveals she can hear his voice in her head, and adds that earlier it felt like their mana had merged. Liad explains he used mana induction to link their minds. During the brief moment she trusted him earlier, they formed a protection contract, allowing him to match his mana to hers. He thanks her for fighting alongside him and vows to continue protecting her. She smiles and returns the sentiment, demanding he not get hurt. They share a laugh, promising to look out for one another until she comes of age. Liad glances at the unconscious Victor and suggests they return to the mansion to deal with the aftermath. Back at the residence, they report the incident to Marietta. The headmaid is shocked, but relieved the siblings are safe. She immediately orders subordinates to hurry to the forest and retrieve Victor. She then informs them that Countess Muria will soon hold a direct meeting with Viscount Roswald regarding this matter, and asks the children to return to their rooms. However, Liad requests permission to observe the meeting. Marietta takes him to a private room and offers him a seat. She produces a cloth inscribed with a magic circle that links to other rooms, allowing him to listen in. When Liad asks if this counts as eavesdropping, the maid explains that this recording room is designed to monitor the family head's duties. Since Miria has selected him as her child, Marietta wants him to witness and learn the heavy responsibilities of a countess. Liad watches intently, his thoughts focused on his mother. Meanwhile, Viscount Roswald, Victor's father, presents his monthly financial report to Muria. He boasts that among the 3 Viscounts serving under her, the Roswald territory has developed the most. He attempts to conclude the meeting, but the Countess stops him. She points out a suspicious discrepancy. His land is developing and the population is increasing, yet the reported tax revenue remains stagnant. When the Viscount reacts defensively, shouting that she doesn't trust him, Myria reveals she took the liberty of investigating the matter herself. The revenue did increase, but he failed to report it. She sternly questions if he understands the duty of a noble pledged to the Heavenly Empire. She exposes his plot, submitting falsified reports to hoard wealth and strengthen his own sector, intending to eventually break away from the Fial's household. She condemns him for his ambition, noting that he didn't even hesitate to use his own son as a tool to prove his strength. Back in the meeting room, Viscount Roswald realizes his scheme has been exposed but immediately tries to shift the blame. He curses internally, thinking that Victor failed him, before shouting that he never instructed his son to do such a thing. He claims his son is a fool whose burning desire to bear the future of the Fial's territory led him to act harshly. Trying to justify the attack, the nobleman argues that the Fial's lineage specializes in healing magic, which is unsuited for combat. He claims Victor only challenged Kanan to prove that the Roswald family is capable of covering for her weaknesses. With a haughty attitude, he insists that the Countess needs a proper noble lineage to act as her shield, rather than relying on a child of unknown origin like Liad. Muria calmly shuts down his argument. She reveals that Kanan's lineage is actually that of light magic, not just simple healing. She asserts that in the future, her daughter will attain the power necessary to protect herself. The Countess declares that gender plays no part in who protects and who needs protection. Nobles must fight for their own pride, honor, and most importantly, their citizens. Smirking, she adds that her children, both Kanan and Liad, are far more qualified to inherit that will than the Viscount's son, citing the recent duel as undeniable proof. She gathers the documents on her desk and delivers her verdict. Regarding Victor, he will be sent to a strict education facility to be re-educated. As for the Viscount, she has already passed his case regarding the tax fraud to the Imperial investigators. She dismisses him, stating she has nothing left to say. Enraged, Roswald slams his hand onto the table. He shouts at her to know her place, insulting her as a little girl who only inherited her position through pure luck after the previous family head passed away. Muria remains silent, her expression blank. Suddenly, the Viscount freezes. He feels an overwhelming pressure crushing his body. To his eyes, the Countess's aura expands until she appears giant, while he feels as small as an insect sitting on her finger. She looks down on him with pity, noting the absolute difference in their strength. Crushed by her magical pressure, he collapses to the floor in defeat. Meanwhile, inside the recording room, Liad senses the massive surge of power. A moment later, there's a knock at the door. Marietta opens it to reveal Muria. The headmaid bows, praising her mistress for controlling herself and not causing physical harm to the Viscount. Muria turns to her adopted son, acknowledging that he heard everything. She admits that while she has pretended to be a kind foster mother, it wouldn't be unjust to say she originally adopted him to act as a shield for Kanan. However, Liad steps forward and interrupts her. He declares that listening to her today made him proud to be her son. He acknowledges that many are unhappy with his presence, but he wishes to stay and protect this family. He vows to protect his sister until she comes of age, and promises to become strong enough to protect his mother as well. Miyuria looks down, telling him not to worry about her because she is strong, but she wipes away a tear, admitting that his words make her incredibly happy. Just then, another knock interrupts the emotional moment. Marietta opens the door to find Kanan standing there. The mother immediately apologizes, sorry that her daughter had to go through such a terrifying experience in the forest. Kanan shakes her head and runs to hug her, beaming. She insists she wasn't scared at all because her big brother saved her. Mayuria smiles and extends her hand toward Liad, inviting him in. He hesitates, unsure if he belongs, but Marietta encourages him to go to them. As he joins the hug, the Countess reaches out and pulls the headmaid into the embrace as well. Kanan cheers, declaring that from here on out, they are one big family. The group laughs, and the young girl suggests that she and Liad take a bath together. The chapter concludes with the siblings and their mother bonding over a warm bath, cementing their new family dynamic. Inside the grand bathroom, Muria notices that Liad's hair has grown since they last bathed together, and asks if she should trim it for him. Kanan eagerly agrees with the idea. Liad, however, feels quite hesitant. He thinks it would be better if he waited until the women were finished, but just as he attempts to excuse himself, Marietta appears behind him. The headmaid places a hand on his shoulder, asking if he is ready. Liad jolts, startled by her sudden appearance, and scolds her for sneaking up on him. She apologizes but notes that his face is flushed, asking if he has a fever. He insists he is fine, but she teases that he feels warm and ushers him inside. Realizing he cannot fight against the flow of events, he gives in. Inside the steam-filled room, Miuria helps Kanan shower. The young girl calls out to Liad, asking if he is behind her. When he confirms he is, she excitedly asks their mother if she can wash her big brother's back. Muria grants permission, noting it has been a while since they bonded like this. Marietta offers to assist as well. Liad feels trapped in the circle of three women, but eventually settles down. Kanan asks where she should start. Internally, Liad thinks she looks like a miniature angel. He suggests she start with his hand. As she scrubs his hand, she sweetly remarks that these are the hands that protected her. Watching them, Muria smiles, telling the headmaid how glad she is that the siblings get along. Marietta agrees, noting that since the Countess had long worried about their relationship, this moment is incredibly emotional. Once Kanan finishes, Myria steps in, declaring it is her turn. She admits she had started to fear he would never bathe with her again. Liad gets nervous, but she simply smiles, calling herself a greedy mother. She pours shampoo and begins scrubbing his head, noting that his bangs are getting long and threatening to cover his eyes. She promises to cut it later. Although Liad is slightly uncomfortable, Muria playfully praises him for being a good, obedient boy today. Later, back in his room, Liad collapses onto his bed, finally catching his breath after the stressful social interaction. He picks up a book to research the forest where the trial by magic took place, as he had sensed a powerful presence there. He reads an entry about a magical beast, Bastet, the king of cats and ancient guardian deity. He realizes this entity resides within that forest. Suddenly, a knock interrupts his research. Marietta enters to announce that dinner is prepared. Liad leaves the book on the bed and heads to the dining hall. During the meal, Kana notices sauce around Liad's mouth and wipes it off for him. He thanks her with a smile. Muria teases Marietta, saying it looks like Kanan has stolen the headmaid's job. Marietta replies that while she is reluctant to relinquish the duty, she has other responsibilities to attend to. Liad eats the white fish and sorbet, analyzing the flavors. He notes that the culinary arts have definitely improved over the last 1,000 years. Mayuria watches him intently, thinking that his face suddenly looks very mature when he tastes the food. Kanan suddenly speaks up, saying she will only eat half her portion. Liad tells her not to force herself. He realizes she is finally opening up to him about her struggles. She lifts her plate, offering the rest to him. He accepts it, praising her for trying, though he jokes that she doesn't look so good. She promises that next time, she will help him eat things he dislikes. Touched by their sibling bond, both Muria and Marietta start crying. Inspired, Kanan announces she wants to learn how to cook, so she can turn dishes she dislikes into something she enjoys. Muria excitedly offers to help, but Marietta gently reminds the Countess to prioritize her main duties as the head of the house. Muria promises to finish her work first and tells Kanan they will learn to make delicious dishes to dazzle Liad. Watching them, Liad allows himself to bask in this happiness, but he knows it cannot last forever. His thoughts drift to Ars Maria. He wonders if she has reincarnated in this world as well. He realizes the only one with the power to help him find her is his mother. He stares intensely at Miuria, causing her to twitch uneasily under his gaze. Later that evening, Miuria calls out to him. She sensed his stare earlier and realizes he has something he wishes to discuss. She instructs him to come by her study before he turns in for the night. Later that night, Liad heads to the study as requested. Suddenly, hands cover his eyes from behind. He calmly excuses himself to his mother. Muria lowers her hands to his shoulders, pouting slightly that she hoped to surprise him, but admits he is too sharp. She thanks him for protecting Kanan earlier and apologizes for being unavailable due to dealing with Viscount Roswald. Liad assures her there is no need to apologize. Protecting his sister is his duty, and he would have done it regardless of instructions. Muria smiles, noting that she didn't just call him here to apologize. She sensed he had something weighing on his mind and tells him they can stay up late to talk. After a moment of thought, Liad confesses that he is searching for someone, a person he must find at all costs. Muria agrees to help and asks for the name. However, as Liad attempts to speak the name Ars Maria, he feels a sensation like a chain wrapping tightly around his neck. His voice fails him. He realizes with horror that the words are physically blocked from leaving his mouth. He wonders if this is a cost exacted by the ritual of reincarnation, a curse or contract forbidding him from speaking of his previous life. Desperate, he tries to write the name, but his hand trembles uncontrollably. He looks toward a history book, thinking he can point to her name, but as he extends his arm, his hand feels as though it is splitting apart. Seeing his distress, Muria hugs him from behind. She whispers for him not to force himself, assuring him that if it hurts, he doesn't need to say it. Liad apologizes, but she reminds him that he said the same thing to her earlier, lightening her burden. She uses a little magic to calm his anxiety, and he feels his body relax, thanking her for her incredible spell. Regaining his composure, Liad asks if there is a way to search for a person, even if he cannot speak their name. Muria confirms there is. She opens the window to the clear night sky and tells him to wait. She explains that the Fials family possesses a secret grimoire passed down for generations. Soon after, they head outside the castle. Liad apologizes again for making her stay up all night when she is already busy. Muria replies that she is having fun strolling through the night with him, and suggests they hold hands so he doesn't fall. He agrees, and they walk hand in hand to the ritual site. Iliad asks about the time frame of the grimoire. Muria explains it was passed to her from her father. She doesn't know who wrote it or when, but the magic inscribed within is still potent. They arrive at a massive, ancient magic circle drawn on the ground. Muria clarifies she didn't draw it. It has been there for years. She recites the purpose. To the heaven, cast your question. From heaven's canopy, read the answer. Liad recognizes the term heaven's canopy as the atmospheric layer covering the world. Myuria looks up, stating that the canopy displays more than just stars. They will use the magic circle to read the answer he seeks. Kneeling on the ground, she explains that the ritual first requires blood to determine the searcher, but she hesitates to injure his finger. Liad immediately pricks his own finger, letting a drop fall onto the circle, telling her not to worry about a small wound. Muria takes his hand, chiding him gently, and uses magic to heal the cut completely. With the searcher determined, Miuria opens the grimoire to begin the incantation. She instructs him to hold a strong mental image of the person he is searching for. Liad closes his eyes. He visualizes the figure on the other side of the blinds, recalling her clear, bell-like voice, the feeling of her fingers, and the vow they exchanged. Suddenly, Miuria shouts in alarm. The mana is starting to disperse. The ritual is failing. Liad refuses to give up. He thinks that even if the gods seek to bar his path, he will find her. He internally screams his identity. "My name is Liad Fiales. The one I seek is Arsmeria." Responding to his will, a light shines above them, growing brighter and brighter. Miuria declares that the light represents the person he seeks, proving she is in this world. Liad is relieved that they were reincarnated in the same age. However, the light suddenly vanishes. Liad panics, but Miuria corrects him. The light did not vanish, it wandered. In fact, it split into 6 separate lights. She explains that this means there are 6 people, or 6 locations he is looking for. Liad watches the trajectory of the lights, realizing they have scattered toward the great powers of the world: the Holy Empire, the Demon Empire, the Human Empire, the Ogre Empire, the Beast Empire, and the Dragon Empire. Despite this complication, he renews his resolve. Even if she is split across the world, he vows to find Arsmeria. The story shifts to the past, specifically the year 1014 of the Heavenly Empire era. Across the continent, 7 empires wage an unceasing war. Vance, a young knight, kneels before his master, responding to an imperial command. Sitting before him is Arsmeria Rune Media. She gazes out, stating she wishes to see a world free from conflict. She asks Vance how he thinks the world would change if wars were to disappear. The question catches him off guard. He apologizes, admitting that he lacks the imagination to envision a future worthy of presenting to Her Majesty. She laughs gently, telling him she does not mind. Since he is unable to imagine that future, she promises that, as his master, she will paint that picture for him. This marks the first meeting between Liad's past self and the Heavenly Emperor. Years come and go. Suddenly, a shout rises from the crowd outside the mansion. Her Majesty has finally activated the anti-war barrier. Vance dashes inside the castle, praying that the spell is capable of stopping the war and hoping he can make it in time. However, just as he reaches the corridor leading to Arsmeria, someone blocks his path. It is Freed, another high-ranking knight. Freed confirms Vance is heading to see her, and clenches his teeth in rage. He demands to know why Vance didn't stop her or explain the truth, that the method of ending the war would come at the cost of their master's life. He shouts that Guardians should never have accepted such a method. By completing the barrier to secure the future she desired, Arsmeria has sacrificed her own lifespan and is now bedridden. Freed asks Vance if he can still hold his head high and claim to be her guardian knight. He warns that if Vance cannot, he will have to go through him to reach her. Vance looks at his comrade calmly. With a faint smile, he tells Freed that he wishes to entrust the future to him. He declares that Freed will protect the new emperor as the captain of the knights. Freed stands frozen, remembering their childhood when they used to play with wooden swords. He looks down, admitting he wanted to compete with Vance again. Vance shakes his head, stating there is no need for that anymore, as everyone already respects Freed. He walks past his old friend without looking back. Freed mutters bitterly that compared to Vance, he still has a long way to go. Vance enters Arsmeria's chamber. As he approaches her bedside, she calls his name. She admits she thought that even after completing the barrier, she would be able to continue her duties as the Heavenly Emperor for a while, yet her body has already failed her. Vance tries to offer hope. He reports that Her Majesty's power has led the other 6 empires to propose peace negotiations, and an imperial conference will be held soon. He asks if she is truly certain she cannot hold out longer. Arsmeria smiles sadly, revealing that her spirit will dissipate within a few hours. She wonders if it has already been 4 years since they first spoke of peace. Vance regrets that this parting has come far too soon. Arsmeria, however, worries about the future. She questions if a barrier is truly enough to end the war, fearing that the hatred and conflict cultivated over countless years will not vanish simply because fighting is physically prevented. This is her final regret. Vance notes that she sounds as if she has finished her duty, despite the maids outside the room crying for her. Arsmeria sits up slightly, asking why he is not crying. Vance replies that he will not mourn because his life belongs to her. As long as she draws breath, he serves her. He asks her to allow him the chance to challenge the ritual of reincarnation with her. He vows to stay by her side and see the same sights she sees, whether it be 100 or 200 years from now. No matter how much time passes, his desire will never change. Ars Maria calls him a fool, the biggest fool in the entire world. She asks what makes him so confident, noting that even here at the very end, he still refuses to put his feelings into words. Vance simply smiles, saying, "That is because their story has yet to end." They hold hands as the light fades. Back in the present, Leod processes the revelation. 1,000 years ago, he relied on secret magic to search for Ars Maria's soul. The ritual showed the light splitting into six, meaning her soul has fragmented into 6 pieces. However, Leod steals his resolve. He refuses to give up. He vows to find Ars Maria, even if that means finding her through multiple people. Time passes, and Leod has grown, his physique becoming more defined with age. One day, while walking through the forest, he hears a rustle and immediately identifies the source. A shadow leaps down from the trees above, revealing a large cat-like beast monster. Leod smiles and dodges the creature's attack using the Guardian Art First form, Nazi, moving effortlessly like a bird crossing a stormy sea. The resulting burst of energy cuts through the air, leaving deep slash marks on the surrounding trees. When the dust settles, Leod realizes he has been lured into a trap. He is standing at the edge of a cliff with nowhere to run. Behind him, the beast reappears, extending sharp claws to slash into his back. The attack lands, and Leod shouts in agony, but a moment later his figure vanishes into thin air. The beast is shocked. Leod has utilized the Guardian Art second form Shadow, creating a decoy to reflect a potential future. The real Leod drops from the trees above, declaring that there's always a way out. Up. He lands squarely on the beast's back, pinning it down. He smirks, noting that it looks like he won today, Bastet, the king of cats. Bastet is annoyed. He complains that he was sure he would have Leod for dinner, but the boy simply played with him from beginning to end. He asks how long Leod plans to sit on him. Leod apologizes, but jokes that he couldn't help it, as he always wanted to try riding him. Bastet observes that the boy has grown strong since they first met 8 years ago, and asks why he continues to visit the depths of the forest. Leod reminds him of what he said years ago. He genuinely wants to be friends. Bastet sighs, agreeing to listen to him since he brought catnip wine. Leod reveals that tomorrow he will head to the World Magic Academy to take the entrance exam. He has passed the preliminary reviews and will be entering as his sister's guard. Bastet assumes this means their game is over and this is their final meeting. However, Leod surprises him by asking if he would like to come along to the academy. The beast is shocked by the invitation. He asks why Leod is so strange and demands to know who he exactly is. However, Bastet concedes that if Leod promises to eventually tell him the truth, he is not against joining them. Leod laughs, relieved that they can continue sparring, and thanks Tit. Bastet grumbles that he never liked that nickname. The next morning, Leod heads to the kitchen, hoping to be in time for breakfast. He is greeted by a delicious fragrance. Conan is at the stove making soup. She asks her brother to taste it for her. He accepts the small plate and takes a sip. His eyes widen and he praises the rich flavor, noting how the meat and vegetables have merged perfectly. Conan beams at the compliment. When Leod asks if he can help, she asks him to set the table. Once the food is ready, the table is filled with dishes Conan prepared herself. She leads the grace, offering thanks from the Fial's family to the heavens for their nourishment. After breakfast, the siblings stand outside the mansion, ready to depart. Marietta and the other maids gather to see them off. The head maid tells them to be careful, while the others sob openly. Leod reassures them that this is not goodbye and promises they will return someday. Conan tears up, thanking Marietta and everyone for their love. The maids rush to hug her. Meanwhile, Marietta steps up to Leod to fix his buttons. She instructs him to keep his collar and necktie straight at all times, reminding him that a gentleman must take care of his appearance. He nods, vowing not to bring shame to the Fial's name. As they start to leave, Conan pauses and points to the large creature waiting nearby, asking about the big cat. Leod introduces Bastet as a friend and the king of cats, explaining that he will get them to school faster than a carriage. Bastet observes Leod's younger sister, noting he has heard much about her. Leod climbs onto the beast's back and extends a hand to help Conan up. Bastet warns them that although he is fast, it will take some time to reach the destination, so they should hold on tight. Conan settles in and cheers. All right, let's go onward to the magic school. Bastet leaps into the air, flying off as the maids wave goodbye from the ground below. Once on the ground, Leod dismounts and asks Conan if she can get down by herself. She confidently says yes, but immediately slips, sliding off the beast's side. Leod catches her just in time. asking if she is okay. She admits she is not. The surrounding crowd begins to whisper, wondering if the reliable man holding the noble girl is a servant, or perhaps a lover enrolling together. Blushing furiously, Conan begs him to let her down because everyone is staring. Liad apologizes to Bastet for the commotion. Suddenly, a massive purple aura dominates the sky. A woman riding a massive demon beast demands the path be cleared for her quick and slender dragon. This is the Demon Empire Princess, Aurelis Grantschalk. Blocking her path is another girl who argues that the person proceeding forward has the right of way, and that meaningless conflict goes against the goddess's will. This is the Holy Empire Princess, Erisiel Rosenkrantz. Liad observes the standoff. He notices the gathering of royalty. The Holy and Demon Princesses are front and center, but he also spots the Beast Prince, the Dragon Princess, and the Human Princess nearby. Only the Ogre Princess seems to be missing. He realizes the imperial families of every empire have gathered at this school. He worries that the 1,000-year-old conflict between the Holy and Demon Empires could flare up here. If they butt heads now, amidst all these nations, it could escalate from an entrance exam dispute into an international incident. Aurelis smirks, suggesting they settle their grudge right here rather than prolonging it. Erisiel retorts that the demon is reaching beyond her ability, reminding her that holy magic breaks through demon magic. She also mocks Aurelis for taking the exam at only 13 years old. The demon princess fires back, claiming that despite the age difference, Erisiel looks much younger than her. Enraged, Erisiel levitates, calling upon the goddess to blind all sinners as energy sparks behind her. Aurelis counters, summoning the blood of Grandschalk and surrounding herself with dark energy. Just as Erisiel prepares chains of punishment, and Aurelis prepares to serve a crimson fate, a sharp snap echoes through the air. Both princesses collapse to the ground, their magic fizzling out. Liad has secretly utilized Guardian Art's second form, using resonating energy waves to create a living silence. The princesses are baffled. Aurelis complains her magic didn't activate, and Erisiel insists she chanted the spell correctly. Conan whispers to her brother, asking if he did something. Liad admits he did, explaining that he nullified their incantations by sharpening the sound echo to break up the fight before the worst-case scenario occurred. Aurelis sighs that this puts a damper on things. However, the tension breaks slightly. Erisiel apologizes for bringing up the demon's age, admitting that even though she is older, she is also enrolling early. Aurelis smiles, appreciating how pure the Holy Princess is. They agree to settle this later, but Aurelis notes with irritation that an unrefined stranger got in their way. Liad panics internally, realizing he might have stood out too much. He quickly urges Kanan to move along before they are noticed further. The students gather at the assembly hall where a video projection of the vice principal, Matilda Lindworm, begins to play. She formally welcomes everyone, noting that while they have passed the preliminary appraisal, acceptance is not yet guaranteed. She explains a special condition regarding the imperial families. To allow them to keep their abilities hidden, they are exempt from the public mana evaluation. However, all other examinees must undergo the test immediately at the Crystal Colosseum in groups of 5. Liad listens intently, realizing that powerful mana users from all over the world have gathered here. He steels his resolve, determining that he must pass this exam no matter what, as this gathering of elites is his best chance to find a clue regarding Ars Meria. Beside him, Kanan takes a deep breath. She smiles nervously, hoping that if she tries her best, she might be placed in the same class as her brother. Liad returns the smile and suggests they head outside for a moment to clear their heads before the examination begins. As they move through the crowded hallway, Kanan accidentally bumps into a stranger. The man catches her, smoothly telling the pretty lady to watch her step. Before Kanan can apologize, a girl standing behind the man shouts insolently, demanding Kanan get her filthy hands off Lord Jild. The man raises a hand to silence his subordinate, Verona, and turns his full attention back to Kanan. He introduces himself as Jild Grousel, the third son of a marquis from the Demon Empire. He introduces his companions, Verona and Vargas, explaining that their rudeness stems from their intense loyalty and desire for him to win. Jild then inquires about Kanan's pedigree. When she answers that the Fial's family holds the rank of Count, his attitude visibly shifts. Realizing his family outranks hers, he drops the formal politeness, noting that she doesn't need to be so stiff around him. Despite the difference in status, he falls to one knee, entranced by her beauty, and invites her to dine with him alone. Kanan is uncomfortable and tries to refuse. Liad steps forward to intervene, but Jild cuts him off, coldly asking if the Heavenly Empire allows servants to speak back to their superiors. Liad stands his ground. He clarifies that he is not a servant, but Liad Fialis, Kanan's older brother. He states that while he respects the nobility of his own country, he has no obligation to obey a marquis from a foreign nation without question. The air grows tense. Jild scoffs, implying that the Demon Empire, led by a strong emperor, is currently superior to the Heavenly Empire, which lacks a ruler. Staring Liad down, Jild declares that the examination will soon reveal who is truly superior. He turns to leave with his retainers, tossing a final comment to Kanan that he hopes she passes so they can meet again on stage. Kanan maintains a polite smile until they are out of earshot, then immediately explodes in rage. She rants about his nerve, furious that he tried to sweet-talk her while looking down on Liad. She fiercely declares that Liad is the world's #1 brother. Liad laughs at her sudden switch in demeanor, silently vowing that no matter who shows up, he will protect her. Later, taking a break outside the testing hall, Liad and Kanan relax with a small tea party. Kanan sips her drink, wondering if their mother went through the same exam process in the past. Liad nods, suggesting she likely did. Kanan realizes that if they pass, that would technically make their mother their upperclassman. The thought lights a fire in her. She declares that they absolutely must pass now. Liad reflects on their mother's history. Miria, being the incredible maid she is, first attended an aristocratic school within the Heavenly Empire. However, as an honor student at age 15, she received a recommendation and transferred to the World Magic Academy. She ranked second in her year, but had to withdraw after only 1 year to return home and inherit the household. The conversation shifts back to the present and Kanan's mood sours. She complains about Jild, unable to believe his arrogant attitude despite Liad's mana being colorless and invisible to the naked eye. Liad tries to calm her, explaining that Jild's magic belongs to the fire branch, which naturally makes it showy. Kanan huffs, muttering that his magic is as stifling as his personality. Internally, Liad analyzes Jild's retainers. Verona possesses poison magic, while Vargas belongs to the earth branch. Interestingly, Liad senses that Vargas actually possesses power that rivals, or perhaps even exceeds, his master, Jild. It seems the demon noble's path will not be as easy as he thinks. Kanan breaks his train of thought, beaming at him. She tells Liad that his magic is far prettier than anyone else's. Liad smiles gently, returning the compliment. Kanan blushes, thanking him for praising her mana control. However, she is still amazed by the earlier results. During the mana evaluation at the Crystal Colosseum, Kanan, examinee number 999, stepped forward. Possessing the extremely rare light attribute, her maximum output was so intense that it actually caused a crack to appear in the measuring capsule. The examiner, Letitia Primrose, was stunned. But the true shock came with the next student, examinee number 1000, Liad Fialis. At first, Letitia was confused because she could not see his mana at all. It was colorless. However, the moment Liad unleashed his power to the max, the pressure was suffocating. Letitia couldn't comprehend how he was concealing such monstrous power. Before she could react, Liad quietly asked her to treat him as a normal student to avoid standing out. Letitia, still shaken, directed him to the next stadium, realizing that in that crowd of people, likely only she and his sister understood what a monster he truly is. While Letitia stands by the broken equipment processing this, a pair of arms suddenly wraps around her from behind. A playful voice asks what she is looking at. Letitia jolts as the papers in her hand are snatched away. She turns to see Yuyuka, the chief of the research department. Yuyuka laughs, mentioning she just woke up from her midday nap and is in desperate need of an excellent guinea pig, or rather a research assistant. She decides to scout this year's examinees before anyone else can claim them. Letitia protests that the exam isn't over, but Yuyuka ignores her, scanning the reports. Her eyes widen as she focuses on the data for the amber white girl and the boy who followed her. She asks Letitia if she felt that insane mana earlier. Letitia hesitates, noting that the temporary student cards can only measure so much, but Liad's power clearly exceeded the limit. She specifically points out the color of his mana. Yuyuka cuts her off, trembling with excitement. She confirms it is just as she thought, a colorless pattern. It is a unique type of mana that can become any color, the same as that person. Overwhelmed by her discovery, Yuyuka's own aura flares up, causing the already damaged measurement device to start rumbling and cracking further. Letitia shouts for her to stop before she destroys the equipment completely. Unbothered, Yuka declares that they should just pass the two siblings immediately so she can drag them into her lab the moment they graduate. Promising to fix the device later, she wanders off, deciding to go check on the princesses next. Letitia watches her go, sighing as she wonders just what Liad will show them during the mock battle in the afternoon. The afternoon exam begins. The head examiner, Siaba, addresses the students, explaining that the next test is the Phantom Dance. This assessment requires students to send a mana projection of themselves into an alternate dimension called the Phantom Arena to fight another student's projection. Siaba points to a large magic circle, noting that while the battle takes place in a different dimension, the physical body will be transported to a random location inside the school after the exam, depending on the results. He instructs them to enter in order. Kanon steps up first. She turns to her brother, beaming, and tells him she looks forward to passing and meeting him on the other side. She steps into the circle and vanishes. Watching her leave, Siaba chuckles warmly. He admits to Liad that he also has a younger sister, and understands how wonderful a good sibling relationship is. As a favor, he promises to arrange the matchmaking so that Liad and Kanon will not be forced to fight each other. Liad thanks him sincerely. Siaba gestures for him to proceed, reminding him there is no time to waste. Liad steps into the light. Internally, he steels himself. Even though this is a battle of projections, the sensation of combat will be indistinguishable from reality. Liad opens his eyes to find himself in a desolate wasteland, an empty space perfectly suited for a duel. A voice calls out from behind him, calling him an appropriate stepping stone. Liad turns to find Jill standing there. The demon noble smirks, claiming that fate must have bound him and Kanon together, which is why Liad has been presented to him as an obstacle to clear. He arrogantly offers Liad a chance to surrender and drop out now, suggesting it would be for the best so that he can pursue Kanon without her brother's interference. Liad responds politely but firmly. He acknowledges Jill's confidence but refuses to lose. Jill scoffs at his defiance. He brings up the mana evaluation, insisting that no matter how skilled Liad might be in physical combat, mana is everything in the Phantom Arena. Raising his voice, he declares that someone with no mana has absolutely no chance of victory. Jill holds up 3 fingers. He announces that ending this in a single blow would be boring, so he will allow 3 strikes. The 3rd strike will burn Liad's phantom body to ashes. He points a finger, casting Flame Demon God's Breath. A beam of intense fire shoots forth, engulfing Liad in a massive explosion. Jill laughs, mocking the weakling. However, as the dust settles, his laughter dies. Liad is standing completely unharmed, having used the Guardian Art First form to create a circular energy shield. Liad calmly asks if that was merely a probe, noting that the fire was quite showy. Jill is stunned. He stammers that the attack was a mid-tier spell, borrowing power from a demon god. It is impossible for a student with no visible mana to withstand it. Liad lectures him, explaining that even if one borrows a god's power, the projection's output relies on the user's own mana capacity. Furious, Jill yells that tricks won't save him. He casts his second spell, Frega Rosina, summoning a spirit from purgatory to brand Liad's shadow into the earth. A creature with the body of a snake and the torso of a human materializes. Jill commands it to chase the target until he is scorched to a crisp. The spirit splits into 4 separate entities, lunging at Liad from all directions. Liad reacts instantly, utilizing Guardian Art, first form Mirage. He leaves behind a remnant of his fighting spirit in his previous location to act as a decoy. Confused by the energy signature, the 4 spirits converge on the fake image and collide, exploding in a burst of friendly fire. Jill screams at the spirits, demanding to know what happened. Suddenly, Liad's voice comes from directly behind him, advising him to pay more attention to his surroundings. Jill whips around in terror. The humiliation triggers a memory of his lonely younger self. He thinks about the pain of being a 3rd son, constantly overshadowed and fighting for recognition. His fear turns to rage. He shouts that someone like Liad, blessed with the fortune of being the firstborn, could never understand his pain. Liad notices the flames surrounding Jill, turning from red to a deep, ominous black. Dark mana. Jill snaps. He invokes the Flame Demon God to scorch everything with the flames of judgment. Raising his hand, he screams the incantation for his 3rd and final strike. Frega Sachigal! Black energy swirls violently into the sky, signaling the end of the match. Jill refuses to back down. He hurls a torrent of dark energy toward his opponent, desperate to secure victory. Liad holds his ground, thinking that he isn't the only one who cannot afford to lose. Liad raises his hand, transmuting the black mana into raw power. He initiates Guardian Art Third Form, Moon Reflection. He calls out to the entity Jild summoned, commanding the flame demon god to answer his call just this once and lend him its power. Jild screams in confusion. He cannot understand how Liad, who has no contract with the spirits, can utilize the demon god's power. Ignoring the noble's shock, a sphere of lightning and energy forms around Liad, successfully blocking and absorbing the dark mana. Jild is horrified as he feels himself being pushed back. He insists it is impossible for him to have less mana than a commoner. Suddenly, he realizes his hand is fading away. His projection is destabilizing. Capitalizing on the opening, Liad's mana engulfs Jild's dark energy and shoots it forward with terrifying force. The blast crosses the horizon of the phantom dimension, boring a massive hole through the distant mountains. Liad analyzes the outcome calmly. Because he focused entirely on defense, he barely expended any mana. Jild, on the other hand, unleashed powerful attacks one after another. In the phantom dance, maintaining a projection requires mana. The more one spends, the harder it becomes to exist in that space. Jild has simply run out of fuel. As the battle ends, Liad finds himself falling through a black void. He assumes he is teleporting back to the school, but something feels wrong. He looks at his hands. He has not returned to his physical body yet. Looking around the dark space, he spots 6 silhouettes in the distance, the princesses of the 6 empires. Before he can investigate, someone approaches him from behind. Suddenly, chains wrap tightly around his body. Liad recognizes this sensation immediately. It is the exact same restricting feeling he gets whenever he tries to speak Arsmeria's name. A girl stands behind him, trying to speak, but her words are unintelligible. Liad strains to understand her, wondering if this mysterious figure is actually Arsmeria. Before he can reach her, a familiar voice calls out, "Brother!" The vision shatters, and Liad snaps back to consciousness in the real world. Conan is hovering over him, looking relieved. She sighs, thanking the heavens he is awake. Liad smiles, feeling that coming to this academy was definitely the correct decision. He certainly felt a clue regarding Arsmeria in that void. Conan interrupts his thoughts, admitting she was terrified. Even though she knows better than anyone how strong he is, she couldn't help but worry that something happened during the mock battle. She giggles nervously, apologizing for being such a worrier. Liad looks at her gently. He reminds himself that he is not here for his own sake. For the sister who believes in him so wholeheartedly, he must ensure she never has a reason to cry. He silently vows to stay by her side and protect Conan forever. Liad finds himself standing in an unfamiliar part of the campus. He asks where they are, and Conan explains that this building is designated for new students enrolling in the special class. Knowing his strength, she was certain he would be assigned here, so she waited for him. Liad is relieved. He thanks her, grateful that her prediction means he can continue to stay by her side. Suddenly, a voice calls down from the balcony above. 2 girls are leaning over the railing, teasing them about how close they seem. Liad and Kanan look up and are surprised to see the Beast Empire princesses, Yuzuriha and Kuzunoha. One of the princesses asks if the 2 of them are dating. Kanan quickly corrects the misunderstanding, introducing herself as Kanan Fiales of the Earl family from the Heavenly Empire, and introducing Liad as her brother. The princesses are intrigued. They note that the siblings don't resemble each other at all. However, they realize this makes Liad and Kanan just like them. Kuzunoha introduces herself as the elder sister, though she notes that she and Yuzuriha treat each other as equals regardless of age. Kanan thinks that is wonderful, comparing their bond to that of best friends. The twins agree happily, hugging each other and then pulling Kanan into the embrace, delighted that their new classmate understands them so well. Liad watches the wholesome interaction, but his instincts remain sharp. He knows there is no way the princesses of a major empire are unguarded. He scans the area and detects a presence a short distance away, a guard standing on standby. While there's no hostility from the girls, the guard emits a distinct pressure. To be safe, Liad discreetly activates Guardian Art Second Form, Isolation, cutting off the guard's mana sense to create a blind spot around them. The guard, Rukin, notices the interference immediately but remains silent. Meanwhile, the princesses sniff the air. They mention smelling a strong beast on the siblings, a scent that only their superior senses can detect. Liad realizes they are smelling Bastet. He explains that a forest within their earldom is home to Bastet, the king of cats, who graciously agreed to serve as their mount to the academy. The princesses are shocked. It is rare for the king of cats to let anyone ride him, let alone form a contract with humans from the Heavenly Empire. They lean in closer to Leod, sniffing him intently. They detect something else, a scent that cats love. They ask if he is carrying catnip. The girls get uncomfortably close to Leod in their excitement. Suddenly, Rukin steps in, pulling them back and scolding them for their lack of decorum. Leod apologizes, explaining that he gave Bastet some catnip wine earlier at lunch, which is why the scent lingers. The princesses laugh, assuring Rukin that secondhand fumes won't get them drunk. Rukin sighs, reminding them that speaking of alcohol is beneath their station. The princesses pout, arguing that their father drinks all the time. One of them tries to lean back toward Leod, telling him there's no need to be so uptight, but Rukin firmly pulls them away again. Despite the scolding, Rukin smiles at Leod. He extends a hand, apologizing for the earlier tension. As a fellow guard, he offers Leod his respect, recognizing that he is no ordinary warrior. Leod shakes his hand, returning the sentiment. Satisfied with the answer about Bastet, the group prepares to leave. The princesses wave goodbye, promising to see them tomorrow in class. Kanan remarks on how easy they were to get along with, and Leod agrees as they head down the stairs. Waiting for them at the bottom are examiner Letitia and Professor Siaba. Letitia congratulates Kanan first. She announces that Kanan ranked 9th overall, scoring an A+ on the mana evaluation. Her combined score with the Phantom Dance totals 135 points, one of the highest achieved, even including the princesses. Kanan is humbled by the high evaluation. Siaba adjusts his glasses and turns to Leod. He notes that Leod also scored an A+ on the mana evaluation. Because of this, the research library chief, Professor Yuyuka, has requested a re-evaluation at a later date. Siaba warns him to be careful if he chooses to accept, hinting at the professor's eccentric nature. Letitia chides Siaba for veering off topic. Siaba giggles and gets back on track. He informs Leod that regarding his Phantom Dance performance, the general supervisor of the exam, who is also the vice principal, wishes to speak with him directly. Moments later, Leod stands before the vice principal, Matilda Lindworm. She glares at him with intense vertical slit eyes. Leod recognizes them immediately as draconic eyes, proof of the strength that makes dragons famous. Matilda speaks with authority. She states that Leod's results in both the Mana evaluation and the Phantom Dance place him at the absolute top of all examinees. She admits that for someone with his unparalleled value to enroll voluntarily is a boon to the academy. On behalf of the principal, she thanks him. Her aide whispers in her ear, reminding her to get to the main topic. Matilda nods. Her expression turns serious as she addresses him again, asking for his assistance. Walking down the corridor with Kanan, Leod recalls the private conversation he just had with the vice principal. Matilda had 2 specific requests for him. First, she asked if he would mind having his academic score excluded from the overall ranking. Leod agreed, stating that he doesn't mind as long as he is allowed to enroll. She explained that there are those who oppose the idea of ranking the princesses of the 6 empires against each other. To avoid political friction, no ranks above 7th place will be publicly announced. All the princesses will be enrolled in the special class, which means they will be Leod's classmates. This led to her second request. She wants Leod to assist in creating an environment where the princesses can learn safely. While an alliance exists where the empires have sworn not to start wars, that is merely a formal agreement between nations. The school lacks the authority to intervene in private disputes between students. Given the earlier conflict between the holy and demon princesses, Leod realized this was a valid concern. He accepted the responsibility, promising to do whatever he can to ensure the class functions smoothly. Snapping back to the present, Leod and Kanan are stunned to see their mother standing right in front of them in the hallway. Muria smiles brightly, introducing herself playfully as Professor Mew, a substitute teacher. Kanan immediately calls her out, laughing that there is no way she can fool them. Leod asks why she is here. Muria apologizes for the secrecy but confirms she really is a substitute teacher. As a former student of the academy, she used her connections with old acquaintances to return as an assistant teacher for the special class, the very class her children are in. She had been working in the capital to prepare for this moment. Leod is touched, realizing she has been working in the shadows all this time just to be with them. Kanan laughs that their mother always goes overboard, but that is exactly what she loves about her. She hugs Muria and Leod smiles, agreeing that he expects nothing less from their mom. Muria gets emotional but quickly composes herself. She reminds them that on campus, she must treat all students equally and will refer to them as Mr. Lyod and Mrs. Conan. Kanan giggles that it feels weird, but they play along. Muria tells them to fix their collars and suggests they head to their lodging together. She jokes that if they get tired, they can jump into their teacher's arms and she will carry them. The siblings look at each other and giggle, dutifully responding, "Yes, Professor Mew." They head to the Magic Academy's West Number 21 Noble District. Mireia explains that the buildings here are designed to match the topography of each country. As they walk, Lyod senses a presence behind them, but when he turns, no one is there. They arrive at a huge mansion. Two maids, Soil and Cosette, welcome the Fial's family, announcing that they will be serving them from today onwards. Lyod is surprised they even have maids. He politely asks if they are also students. The maids confirm they are second-year scholarship students working part-time to pay tuition. They assure him that they have received special training and will have no issues fulfilling their roles. They offer to prepare dinner immediately. Canon, grateful and humble, mentions she loves cooking and asks to join her seniors in the kitchen. The maids are stunned that a noble would offer to help, insisting they are not worthy, but Kanan's kindness disarms them. Lyod decides to take a look around outside with Bastet. Muria gives him permission, and Bastet happily flies off with Lyod on his back, joking that he will borrow her son. They land in a quiet spot, and Lyod tells Bastet there is plenty of space for him to sleep here. Suddenly, he spots a girl hiding behind a pillar. It is the guard from the Holy Empire he sensed earlier. Realizing she has been spotted, the girl steps out and introduces herself as Claudina, the servant of the Holy Princess, Her Highness Ericiel. Lyod introduces himself as the guard of Canon Fiales. He asks what brings her here at this hour. Claudina admits she wished to speak with him, because she figured out that he and his sister are in the special class. She explains that the special class is almost exclusively composed of the princesses and their guardians, meaning only those with exceptionally high grades can enter. She reveals that Her Highness Ericiel had aimed to take first place in the entrance exam. However, the Dragon Princess, Her Highness Aurelius, turned down the position of freshman representative, stating that there is someone more deserving than her. Lyod realizes that since the rankings above 7th place are hidden, the existence of a student stronger than the princesses is a mystery to everyone else. Claudina suspects it is him. Lyod deflects politely, stating he hasn't received a rank either. Claudina thanks him for answering and warns him of a coming storm. She explains that the demon princess, Aurelius, was also aiming for first place. After the exams, Aurelius declared that she wants to duel the person whom the dragon princess claims is superior. Ericiel, having interacted with Aurelius in the past, instructed Claudina to warn Lyod. Although the admission ceremony is in 3 days, the special class is scheduled to gather in the classroom tomorrow. Claudina warns that it is highly likely the demon princess will make her move then. With that final warning, she turns and leaves. The next morning, Kanan wakes up groggily to wish her brother a good morning, only for Lyod to realize she is sleeping on top of him again. He suspects she took advantage of his nap while he was guarding her room to sneak into his bed. Carefully, he squeezes out from under her, announcing he is going outside for fresh air. Once he is gone, Kanan jolts awake, surprised that she actually managed to fall asleep there. Outside, Lyod washes up at the well. The maids rush over in a panic, covering their eyes while insisting they absolutely were not peeking. He apologizes for the disgraceful sight, but they eagerly assure him it is fine and hand him a towel. Suddenly, Kanan appears behind him. She takes the towel and begins drying his hair, scolding him for using cold water and warning him against catching a cold. Lyod retorts that it isn't raining and tells her to go back inside. As she accepts the towel, the maids whisper that the siblings look like lovers in a forbidden romance. Lyod sighs, realizing that living here might be exhausting. Later, the siblings head to the academy. Kanan notes the strict security, which Lyod explains is due to the gathering of the princesses from 6 nations. Entering the hall, he observes the group and notes that the princess of the Oni Empire is missing. Siaba and Letitia introduce themselves as the instructors for magic fighting arts and magic theory, respectively, causing tension to rise immediately. Ericiel, the Holy Princess, instructs Aurelius, the Demon Princess, to show respect. Aurelius shoots back, telling her to mind her manners, declaring that honor is paramount in the Demon Empire, and refusing lessons until the hierarchy is established. She then addresses Ryunea, the Dragon Princess, who is sleeping. Ryunea wakes up annoyed, reiterating her demand for the mana ranking results she sensed yesterday. Suseri, the Human Princess, objects to treating people like objects, prompting the beast princesses to tease her about which position she intends to fill. Aurelius cuts through the chatter, demanding the mana results. She turns her gaze to Liad, revealing she knows he defeated Jild. When Ericiel tries to intervene, Aurelius silences her by invoking the Sky Pact, an ancient treaty allowing the demon empire to uphold its principles of honor through combat. Ryunea insults the demons for needing violence to gauge strength. Ignoring the jab, Aurelius steps in front of Liad and challenges him to a duel right there and then. Aurelius issues a formal challenge to Liad, declaring that the blood of the Fial's family does not seem to run in him. To raise the stakes, she produces a master-servant ring, an heirloom passed down through generations of her family. Invoking a heavenly contract, she demands that if she wins, he must become her subordinate. Ericiel shouts in disbelief, asking if the demon princess realizes what she is doing. The holy princess warns that a heavenly contract is absolute. By requesting it, Aurelius places herself under the exact same condition. If she loses, she will be forced to serve Liad. Aurelius confirms she is fully aware of the risks and leads the way to the arena. The group arrives at the second Phantom Arena. Siaba notices Liad gripping his sword and asks if he intends to use the magic equipment. Liad confirms it, though he hesitates, feeling it might be inappropriate to go all out. Siaba sternly orders him not to hold back against the demon princess, warning him that losing here would drastically alter his future. Liad smiles, sheathes his sword, and promises to put forth his best effort to avoid any regrets. Kanan and Miria cheer him on from the sidelines. Liad steps into the magic circle, and a brilliant light transports him to a different dimension, resembling a dark, imposing fortress. Aurelius appears behind him, noting that the architecture is similar to Pandemonium, explaining that the audience outside cannot see them until the battle officially begins. Liad attempts to de-escalate, offering to explain the legitimacy of his exam results, but she raises a hand to stop him. Surprisingly, she admits that she acted prematurely. Liad is confused, noticing that her usual mask of arrogance has slipped. Aurelius reveals her true insecurities, explaining that she, and likely the other princesses, assumed Runea would take first place. Being the youngest royal representative, Aurelius feels looked down upon, and is desperate to prove herself against Ericiel and the others. However, meeting Liad, a mere guard with strength greater than hers, has shattered her limited worldview. She asks him if he will continue to show her this brand new world. Meanwhile, outside the arena, Letitia watches anxiously. Realizing she should have stopped this duel, she fears the outcome of a clash between Liad and a princess. Ericiel approaches her, suggesting they watch over the duel since there is nothing else they can do. As the viewing screen forms, the holy princess quickly covers Letitia's eyes. On the screen, a temporal cage enveloped in crimson mist manifests around Liad, the Crimson Eyes of Time. Watching from the sidelines, Kanan recognizes the unique magic eye immediately. She notes that it steals the target's consciousness, realizing that Aurelius is going all out to force Liad into servitude with a single blow. Inside the arena, Aurelius leaps toward her opponent, lamenting that the match will end so quickly. She dashes forward to strike, but Liad moves with blinding speed, hovering high above her before the attack lands. The spectators are stunned that he resisted the magic eye and claimed the high ground without drawing his sword. Ryunea admits Aurelius is strong, but Liad's true strength remains a mystery. Aurelius demands to know how he resisted the consciousness-stealing effect. Liad calmly explains that losing consciousness is not an issue as long as the body continues to move. He reveals he used Guardian Art First form, attaining Void, rigging his body with mana threads to execute pre-programmed movements automatically, bypassing the hypnosis. Aurelius is shocked that he read through her attack so completely. Gritting her teeth, she floats up to meet him, declaring that she hasn't made him kneel yet. Suddenly, her clothes dissolve into a swarm of bats that revolve around her. Unleashing a deadly energy, she undergoes a transformation, telling Liad that since he encroached upon her castle, he is now hers whether he desires it or not. Aurelius extends her hand, unleashing the crimson blossoming dual swords. As the blood-red dust swirls into blades, she demands that Liad stop holding back and unsheath his weapon. Liad calmly analyzes the situation, tracking the trajectory of her mana to predict that the attack from her right arm will arrive a split second before the left. He initiates Guardian Art First form, manifesting huge transparent wings. Knowing that the vampire racial ability drains opponent mana, he strategically sends these mana wings into the sky to act as decoys. As Aurelius strikes, Liad deploys a crystal barrier to bait her draining ability, then blocks her follow-up attack with a circular shield. Suddenly, crystal flowers bloom wildly in the air around them, stunning her. Watching the broadcast, Erisiel explains the phenomenon to the other princesses. Aurelius's fangs drain mana and convert it into crystal flowers. The onlookers realize that Liad did not deploy a barrier to block her, but rather to feed her specific targets, keeping his main body safe from the drain. Back in the arena, Aurelius loses her balance in midair. Liad grips his sword hilt, ready to draw, but stops at the last second. Instead, he grabs her and lands safely on the ground as the crystal flowers shatter around them. He nervously apologizes, but Aurelius pushes him away violently. She demands to know why he refused to draw his sword, asking if he truly believes she is that weak. Her desperate expression triggers a sudden memory in Liad. He hears the voice of Ars Mariah from the past, scolding him for thinking she would fear death and challenging him to fight her seriously. Liad gasps, snapping back to reality, wondering why he is recalling that specific memory now since Aurelius and Ars Mariah look nothing alike. Mistaking his hesitation for pity, Aurelius accuses him of thinking she is afraid. Liad realizes this is not the time to be lost in the past. Aurelius turns, admitting he is stronger than she imagined, but refusing to give up because he was the one who showed her a new world. A heavy mist begins to surround her as she declares her full title as Aurelius Grandshawk, the first princess, pledging to fight with her life on the line. Moved by her resolve, Liad realizes she is serious, and it would be an insult to her honor to treat her like a mere opponent. He formally recites his title as the guard of the Thial's family. Vowing to venture forth with all his being, Liad finally unsheathes his sword. The narrative shifts to a flashback of Aurelius's childhood. Her mother tells the young girl that she bears the hopes and responsibilities of the Grandshawk family, a burden she must never forget. Young Aurelius happily accepts this duty. Later, she is introduced to a girl her age, Erisiel, the Holy Princess. Aurelius is eager to make a friend, but her mother's voice turns cold. She instructs Aurelius that under no circumstances is she to ever lose to the Holy Princess, stating that as a demon princess, winning is her solemn duty. Over the years, this pressure compounds. Aurelius is constantly told she must be stronger, greater, and the absolute number one. She obediently agrees every time, but resentment simmers beneath the surface. In the present, Aurelius reflects on her opponent. Everyone's attention is focused on Liad, the scion of the Thial's family from the Heavenly Empire. She recalls the history of his nation, an empire responsible for ending all wars through a mysterious emperor who created the anti-war barrier, and then vanished from history. While she has always been curious about that ancient power, her priority is now simple. As a demon, she can only determine her worth through combat. She believes that by defeating Liad and forcing the other princesses to recognize her, she can finally prove who she is. Back in the arena, a heavy crimson mist encroaches upon the world. Aurelius snarls from within the fog, warning Liad that simply touching this mist will drain the mana his projection is composed of, providing her with sustenance. He recognizes this domain immediately. She mocks him, declaring that he is already inside her castle. As she commands him to dance until the phantom moon rises, the crimson mist solidifies into mirror reflections, using a technique called Crimson Palace. Liad trembles as his surroundings distort. He realizes this is different from her previous attack. Instead of a dominance-type magic eye that controls the mind, this is a hallucination-type eye that bewitches the senses. He sees countless reflections of Aurelius surrounding him. Sensing a powerful presence behind him, Liad spins around and slashes his sword, but the blade hits nothing but a mirror, which shatters instantly. Aurelius's voice echoes through the room, telling him that under her magic, his sword will never reach her. She thanks him, claiming that fighting him has made her even stronger. Liad squeezes his eyes shut, trying to focus. He realizes she exists everywhere in this domain. The vampire castle itself acts as her main body. Suddenly, she whispers directly into his ear. Liad clenches his teeth, knowing that a direct hit from this range would be fatal. He spins and initiates Guardian Art First Form, turning his sword strike into a void intended to pierce through her defense. However, the blade once again shatters only glass and mist. Through the falling shards, he sees Aurelius giggling. Liad realizes with horror that she activated a second magic eye in advance. She is using two simultaneously. Everything begins to flash violently. He realizes he cannot use his crystal decoy trick anymore if he looks into that eye. Aurelius laughs menacingly as a temporal poison enveloped in mist binds him. Aurelius throws Leod heavily onto the ground. As he hits the floor, his consciousness drifts, pulling him into a vivid memory. In the vision, Arsmeria stands before him, asking if he intends to lose and reminding him of her own ambition to become the strongest mage in all 7 empires. She tells him that if he intends to be the heavenly imperial shield, he must become the strongest knight to match her. Praising his beautiful, transparent mana, Arsmeria urges him to soar high so they can change the world together. Leod clenches his fist in the real world, his resolve hardened. He swears to be stronger than anyone else and refuses to let anyone obstruct his lord's dream. With renewed determination, Leod pushes Aurelius away. He raises his blade and strikes one of the mirrors surrounding them, activating Guardian Art Third Form, Lunar Reflection. Aurelius shouts in confusion, realizing he has copied the properties of her spell during the fight. Before she can react, he vanishes and reappears behind her, utilizing the Guardian Art Second Form to cloak himself like a shadow. Aurelius spins around and attacks, blasting him with mist, but the figure she strikes dissolves. It was merely a reflection. She stares at him in disbelief, asking how he lived to become this formidable. Refusing to accept defeat, she leaps toward him again, screaming that she will reach him because she is the demon princess. Outside the arena, Irisiel and the other princesses watch in awe. While some worry that Aurelius will run out of mana soon due to her high-intensity attacks, Ryunea corrects them. The Dragon Princess warns that it is not finished yet, as Aurelius has not yet revealed her true fangs. Siaba watches silently, impressed by Leod's performance. Beside him, Kanan smiles while Muria observes with a mother's eye, noting that the two are not just fighting, they are dancing together. Back in the duel, Leod continues to dodge, but he notices something is wrong. Despite expending massive amounts of mana, Aurelius seems to be growing stronger. She taunts him, noting that he is dodging even the wind from her attacks in hopes that she will tire out. She reveals that she can dance for much longer than he thinks. Suddenly, Leod feels a presence directly above him. Aurelius unleashes blood poison within a technique called Crimson Blood's Cage. He feels his wings clipped as an invisible force locks him in place, trapping him. Aurelius lands before him, declaring that in her castle escape is impossible. Leod is tense, realizing she has sealed his movements, and is attacking without fear of hitting her own limits. She smiles, revealing the secret of her endurance. As long as she continues to steal his mana, she has no limits. She produces a hand fan and slowly begins to close it. As the fan shuts, the cage around Leod contracts, crushing in on him. Aurelius shouts that this draining ability is her true fang, and a massive burst of energy explodes from her body. Leod stands resolute, a complex magic circle glowing beneath his feet. Aurelius stares in disbelief, realizing he must have been drawing the formation the entire time he was dodging her attacks. The activation of the magic triggers a memory for Leod. He recalls a conversation with Arsmeria about barrier art. She once expressed a desire to see a world where fighting was unnecessary, hoping her magic could serve as a deterrent. Leod reflects with bitter regret that if he had been able to reproduce that power perfectly back then, he might have saved her. Now, thousands of years later, he uses this incomplete barrier in hopes of meeting her again. He unleashes the 4th technique, Colorless. The barrier expands instantly, dissolving the dark mist in the crystal petals. Aurelius is stunned, unable to comprehend how an outsider can use exceptional magic reserved for the bloodlines of the empires. She asks why he didn't destroy her barrier sooner if he had this power. Leod admits that he didn't hold back. He used it because she was truly strong, and he feared he would lose without it. Overwhelmed by his strength and humility, Aurelius wipes tears from her eyes. She shouts that she will fight until the end, leaping forward to dash into him. However, instead of attacking, she embraces him, whispering that this is his win. As her projection fades, Leod begins to teleport. In the transition, he hears a mysterious voice wondering if this outcome is fate, similar to what he felt during the exam. Back in the real world, Kanan rushes over, shouting for her brother, while Mayuria joins in to hug him. Leod's mind, however, lingers on that mysterious voice. Aurelius approaches him, her arrogance replaced by a calm humility. She notes that it feels like it has been a while since they were fighting. Bracing herself, she tells Leod that the winner of a phantom duel has the right to demand one thing from the loser. She apologizes for her earlier rudeness and asks him to order a suitable punishment. Leod cuts her off. He formally requests that Aurelius allow him to study in the same class as her. He expresses his wish to polish their abilities side by side and build a peaceful relationship with everyone. Aurelius is shocked, arguing that she should be the one asking for such a privilege. Liad insists, stating that being able to duel the Imperial Demon Princess is reward enough. After a moment of thought, Aurelius nods. She addresses him as Lyod-sama. When he protests the honorific, she smiles, vowing to address him that way until the day she finally defeats him. The Beast Princesses interrupt the moment, teasing Liad for letting her off the hook so easily and demanding he punish her more. Meanwhile, watching the scene from a distant high-rise building, a mysterious woman smiles, amused by Liod-chan's serious nature. At the Magic Academy's 9th research facility, a mysterious girl sits in the observation tower, reviewing data from the recent battles. She analyzes Liad Fiales, noting his A+ mana measurement and his abnormal ability. What intrigues her most is his use of barrier art, a level of magic far superior to standard barriers, comparable to the legendary Armistice barrier created 1,000 years ago. She observes that despite possessing power only a true mage could wield, Liad remains modest, treating his peers as equals. She looks at a detective board filled with pinned images and points to a sketch of the Silver Guard Knight, Vince. Known as the strongest shield who protected the Sky Emperor from countless threats, Vince has almost no historical documentation. She deduces that this is because he purposely hid his own merits. Just like Liad, the girl admits she has been researching the ancient empress and her escort for years, longing to meet a mage capable of changing the world. She presses a button, generating a hologram of Liad. Walking toward it, she cups the digital figure's face, whispering affectionately. She declares that she will not let him become the plaything of the imperial princesses. As dark energy begins to swirl around her, she expresses a twisted desire. She wants him so badly that she wants to break him. The next day, Kanan and Liad are at the cafeteria. Kanan insists on feeding her brother, claiming he is still tired from his fight. Liad tries to protest, but she ignores him, pointing out that he has become incredibly popular. She mentions that the other students, including the princesses, are pushing for him to become the chairman of the class. Kanan pouts, jealous that their private time is being interrupted. Liad remains humble, stating that being acknowledged for a simple duel is honor enough. Suddenly, Suseri, the human princess, approaches their table. Liad and Kanan both jolt in surprise. Suseri notices their lunch and compliments the handmade meal. Kanan admits she made it, and Suseri praises her brilliance, noting her high grades and cooking skills. Flustered, Kanan tries to deflect the praise to her brother, explaining that he helps her with her magic studies. Suseri smiles, noting how proud Kanan is of him. She turns to Liad, telling him that his match earlier was unbelievable. Liad replies that it is an honor to receive praise from her, expressing his joy at being in the same department. Suseri looks away shyly, admitting she isn't confident that she is strong enough to warrant such high regard. Changing the subject, Liad asks why she approached them. Suseri reveals she has a request for him in his capacity as the presumptive chairman. Her squad is waiting outside, and she asks if he would accompany her to pay a formal visit to the demon imperial princess, Aurelius. Following Suseri, the group arrives at the Oni Empire's dormitory, located in the West Quarter No. 20 Noble Settlement. At the gate, Suseri's guards, Rian and Uraha, announce her arrival, stating she wishes to meet with the Oni princess. As the heavy doors swing open, Liad feels a faint, unnatural chill, as if he brushed against someone else's mana. As they walk through the forest path inside the grounds, Kanan sneezes. Liad asks if she is all right, noting the sudden drop in temperature. Suseri sighs, explaining that, as always, this cold is the result of Hiyori's leaking mana. Curious, Liad asks about her relationship with the Oni princess. Suseri reveals that they have been friends for a long time. Since neither had friends their own age, they bonded immediately during diplomatic meetings between the human and Oni empires. She recalls how they used to have fun by themselves while the adults glared at them, even admitting she once helped Hiyori escape her room. Her guards are surprised by this revelation. Suseri expresses concern. Hiyori was originally a tomboy who felt suffocated by her confinement. Suseri had hoped attending the college would improve her mood, but the Oni princess remains isolated. Hearing this, Liad is reminded of a lonely figure staring distantly from behind a blind. Ars Maria. He thinks that having someone remember and care for you in that solitude is almost like a miracle. If Hiyori feels that same isolation, he wants to help. Kanan, blushing slightly, adds that she is looking forward to meeting her. However, as they reach the mansion entrance, they find two guards arguing. Neo, a male Oni, insists that they cannot pass. Raksha, a female guard, argues back, stating that Hiyori would certainly be pleased to see Suseri. Neo refuses to listen. His energy turns menacing as he declares that Hiyori-sama is not meeting anyone, rudely ordering the guests to leave. Liad recognizes the hostility flowing through the guard as impressive. Raksha snaps at Neo, reminding him that he does not have the authority to decide who Hiyori accepts. Realizing the standoff will not end quickly, Raksha walks over and bows to Suseri. She apologizes deeply for the scene and asks the human princess to wait a moment while she finishes speaking with Neo. The guards of Suseri step forward, offended by the disrespect shown to their princess. Suseri immediately halts them, stating that if this is the rule of the Oni country, they have no choice but to accept it. However, she refuses to leave just yet, deciding to observe the situation from where they stand. Neo declares that while this isn't a show, he can no longer ignore the situation now that there are witnesses. He cracks his knuckles, signaling his intent. Raksha, unwilling to let his attitude slide, draws the sharp blades concealed in her headdress. Watching the tension spike, Liad realizes this is a true battle, far different from the safety of an illusion duel. If this continues, one of them will be seriously injured. He notes that Neo isn't even fighting seriously yet. Determined not to let Suseri's thoughtfulness go to waste, Liad prepares to intervene. Neo leaps toward Raksha, shouting his battle cry. The two clash violently, utilizing distinct styles. Raksha employs shadow arts, while Neo counters with pure swordsmanship and lightning. They exchange high-level techniques, unleashing the Thunder Helix Wheel against the 7 arc blades. Both combatants lunge for a deadly final strike. Just before they connect, Liad activates Guardian Art Second Form. The Traveler becomes lost. Instantly, the two Oni guards freeze, their minds trapped in a momentary slideshow of illusions. Liad knows the illusion will only buy him a second, but that is all he needs. Gripping his sword, he steps between them and transitions into Guardian Art First Form, Floating Leaf. Like a leaf riding the current of a raging river, he seamlessly parries both attacks, duplicating their mana signatures to cancel out the impact completely. Neo and Raksha are blown back, staring in shock at the man who suddenly appeared between them. Neo, furious at the interference, demands to know why a guard of the Heavenly Empire is here. Suseri steps in, explaining that Liad is their class representative. She adds that while Neo didn't see the duel, Aurelis and the other princesses have already acknowledged Liad's ability. Neo remains unimpressed. He counters that while others may have accepted him, Princess Hiyori has not. Suseri is left speechless by his stubbornness. Liad, however, understands. Looking at the Oni guard, he starts to remember certain things from the past. He empathizes with Neo, realizing exactly why he is standing in their way with such desperation. Regardless, Liad knows he cannot back down now. Neo glares at him, declaring that if that is the case, his discussion is no longer with Raksha, but with Liad. Liad accepts the challenge, agreeing to talk as the class representative. Neo wastes no time. He bluntly states that Princess Hiyori does not need to attend their damn class and orders them to leave. To emphasize his point, the Oni guard unleashes a massive downward slash. Liad barely jumps back in time, marveling at the incredible strength behind the blow. From a distance, Liad argues that he believes the Oni princess herself is interested in participating. He insists that his goal is only to grant her the most fulfilling student experience possible. Neo closes the distance instantly. He scoffs at the idea, calling Liad a hypocrite for whitewashing the reality. He points out that the gathering of the princesses has resulted in nothing but petty bickering so far, and declares that there is no need for Hiyori to take part in such a mess. As the fight continues, Neo slashes wildly. Liad dodges the attacks but notices a dangerous mechanic. Neo's missed slashes leave behind lingering blades of mana. Liad realizes that Neo isn't just swinging thoughtlessly. He is filling the battlefield with a mountain of swords to limit Liad's movement. If the fight drags on, Liad will run out of room to dodge. Neo shouts that instructors can be sent directly to the dorms, proving there is no need for Hiyori to interact with outsiders. Deciding to end the discussion, he activates the Ogre Sword Art Lightning Path 7 slashes. Liad analyzes the incoming technique. He knows the first of the 7 slashes boasts the greatest power. He forms a circular shield to block the initial blow, but realizes he cannot simply tank the remaining 6 without risking severe damage. Gritting his teeth, Liad speaks to his opponent amidst the clash. He admits that Neo is right. The class hasn't come together properly yet. He draws a parallel to the continent 1,000 years ago, which was also filled with conflict. However, because people desired peace, the world changed. Liad declares his belief that people can change too. He vows to protect Hiyori's school life, but also to protect Neo's feelings of devotion. Neo, unmoved, thrusts his sword forward, stabbing straight through Liad's chest. Liad falls, but Neo feels no resistance. He stares in amazement as the body dissolves. It was a decoy created by Guardian Art's second form, Shadow Reflection. Liad reappears directly behind the Oni guard. He speaks softly, reminding Neo that while the role of a guard is to protect, that does not mean locking their charge in a cage. A true guard protects the world their charge wishes to see. He asks Neo, who holds the strongest feelings for Hiyori, if he knows what world she truly wants. Neo freezes. He recalls a memory of Hiyori complaining about being forbidden to go outside and wishing to meet everyone. The realization hits him hard. He wonders when he became just like the people who locked her away. Liad promises to put forth his utmost effort to ensure a safe environment, assuring Neo that Suseri will assist them. Suseri steps forward, gently asking Neo to let them pass as Hiyori's friend. Neo lowers his weapon. He explains that knowing the difficult history between the human and Oni empires, he didn't want to let them pass without vetting their true intentions. He bows deeply to Suseri, offering his sincerest apologies for the offense. Raksha steps in, clarifying that this incident was caused entirely by Neo acting on his own accord. She reveals that Princess Hiyori actually instructed them to let any guest through today. Liad breathes a sigh of relief and thanks Neo for agreeing to their unreasonable request. Neo scratches his head awkwardly, apologizing for lashing out. Liad waves it off, understanding that the guard was simply worried about his master, whose condition is currently poor. Raksha warns them that Hiyori might still be resting, so they may have to wait. Suseri agrees happily. With the conflict resolved, the two guards open the massive gates, announcing that the group is about to enter the presence of Her Highness, the Oni Princess. As they cross the bridge, Liad feels the chill in the air intensifying, a sign of Princess Hiyori's powerful magic. Finally reaching the destination, Raksha slides the gate open and invites them in. Inside the room, they find the princess confined within a cage-like structure behind bamboo blinds. Suseri asks gently if they woke her. Hiyori replies happily, noting that it has been a long time and that Suseri has grown much taller. Suseri returns the compliment, saying Hiyori seems much more mature. Hiyori notices the man standing behind her friend and asks who he is. Suseri introduces him as their classmate. Hiyori greets Liad warmly, observing that the mana he possesses resembles the flow of a great, serene river. Liad realizes she can see his colorless mana. He kneels respectfully, introducing himself as Liad Fialis, the class representative. After a moment of thought, Hiyori asks Suseri if she minds letting her have a private conversation with Liad. Suseri agrees. Her female guard suggests that she and Kanon step out for a bit to chat. However, before leaving, the guard whispers a sharp warning into Liad's ear, threatening him not to try anything weird since he will be alone with the princess. Suseri glares at her retainer, who quickly claims she was just trying to calm his nerves. Once they are gone, silence fills the room. Suddenly, Hiyori begins coughing violently. Liad expresses concern, noting she is still unwell. Hiyori smiles weakly, admitting she let her guard down but asks him not to tell Suseri, as she worries too easily. She reveals that her cough is not due to an illness, suspecting that Liad has likely already noticed the true cause. Liad confirms it. He has felt the chill of leaking mana ever since entering the building. He recalls that in the past, Arsmeria suffered from the same condition. He tells Hiyori that she possesses an incredible abundance of mana that is overflowing beyond her control. Hiyori is impressed he can tell so clearly. She admits she is doing her best to control it, but in her current condition, attending class would only cause trouble for other students. Liad notes that despite this, she still wishes to attend. Hiyori falls silent. Liad knows it might not be his place to interfere, having just met her. However, seeing a girl hoping to leave her cage reminds him vividly of Arsmeria. He resolves to help. He asks for permission to be bold and requests that she extend her hand across the blinds. Hiyori hesitates, not wanting to be a burden. Liad smiles, assuring her she won't be. Trembling, she reaches out. Liad touches her fingers, initiating mana circulation. He acts as a conduit to help prevent the dispersion of her excess energy. As the connection forms, he feels a surreal sensation, as if he is standing on a mountain peak, being struck by a massive pillar of light. He realizes this cold, biting energy is what she has been holding in all alone. He focuses intently, stabilizing the flow. Outside, Suseri senses the atmosphere change, noting the sudden warmth in the energy. Kanan smiles confidently, assuring her that her brother has everything under control. Back inside, Hiyori looks at her hands in amazement. She feels a tranquil flow. Her mana is finally under control. Liad explains that he assisted her circulation and promises to help her again whenever the flow stagnates. He tells her she can now head outside without worrying about bothering others. Hiyori worries that since she missed the initial introductions, she might not get along with the other princesses. Liad reassures her, suggesting that tomorrow's entrance ceremony is the perfect opportunity. Hiyori smiles, thanking him sincerely. Outside the door, Neo stands silently, having listened to the entire exchange. The next day, the entrance ceremony hall is packed with students, though Liad notes it is less crowded than the examination. Kanan clutches his arm, warning him to stay close so they don't get separated. Suddenly, a voice calls out to "Your Excellency." Aurelis approaches wearing a different outfit than usual. She asks for Liad's opinion, visibly fishing for a compliment. He honestly replies that she looks very mature, and it fits her well. Aurelis blushes, praising his good eyes. Erciel intervenes, scolding Aurelis for losing her composure and acting disgracefully. Aurelis shoots back, asking if it isn't already the Holy Princess's bedtime since she won't grow taller if she stays up late. Erciel retorts that she is only here because the princesses are expected to offer greetings, though she notes that Runea, the dragon princess, simply requested to be called when it was her turn and left. Aurelis asks why Erciel is hanging around Liad. The Holy Princess claims she felt it appropriate to offer blessings to the winner of the duel, implying that if Aurelis stays, she might hear things she would rather not. The bickering is interrupted when Suseri and Hiyori arrive. Liad lights up, happy to see them both attending. Suseri explains that Hiyori is feeling much better thanks to their visit. Hearing this, Aurelis twitches in jealousy, muttering that if she had known His Excellency was going with them, she would have tagged along. Suseri sighs, reminding the demon princess that she was the first one to turn down the invitation. The beast princesses also join the group, petting Liad and excited about the meat at the buffet. Overwhelmed by the liveliness, Hiyori tugs on Suseri's shirt, asking if she can go take a look somewhere else. Suseri apologizes to the group and offers to go with her, but Hiyori refuses, stating that Raksha is with her. She apologizes for worrying them and slips away into the crowd. As she leaves, Neo steps up behind Liad. The Oni guard asks to speak with him privately about Hiyori. Liad agrees, using telepathy to tell Kanan he is stepping out for a moment. Kanan sighs, thinking that her brother makes new friends every time he fights someone. On a quiet balcony, Neo drops the formalities. He thanks Liad for whatever he did, as Hiyori's mana has stabilized significantly. Liad is glad to help, but he presses Neo for answers. He asks if the mana inside her truly belongs to her, describing it as a cold, ferocious force that seemed to be suppressing her natural warm energy. Neo clenches his fist. He admits that, as a guard, he cannot reveal state secrets to an outsider. However, he confirms that this foreign energy is the source of Hiyori's suffering. He explains his fear. Even if she goes outside, she will eventually lock herself up again to prevent hurting others. Neo worries that by letting her experience the world, she might find something precious, and that attachment will only make her suffer more when she has to isolate herself again. He confesses he doesn't know the right thing to do, but he knows he wants to see her smile. Meanwhile, in a secluded corridor, Hiyori stands alone. She feels guilty for pushing Suseri away again. Despite the lively atmosphere, she feels it has nothing to do with her. She knows coming outside won't change her reality, but she still yearns for it. Suddenly, a woman appears behind her, asking if she got tired of the crowd. Hiyori turns around confused. Raksha immediately steps in, demanding to know who the stranger is. Ignoring the guard, the woman grabs Hiyori. She whispers that, while the princess wanted to be alone, royalty needs to stay with their knights, or else who knows what happens. In an instant, they vanish. Back in the castle, Liad freezes. He senses a massive explosion of powerful mana that vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Before he can react, Suseri runs toward him, panic on her face, shouting that Hiyori has gone missing. Liad demands to know how Raksha lost sight of the princess. The guard admits someone cast dizzying magic on her, causing her to let her guard down on school grounds, for which she blames herself entirely. Interrupting her self-pity, Liad explains he has analyzed Hiyori's specific mana signature and can trace the residual energy she left behind. He instructs Raksha to stay and protect Kanan, promising to contact them via mana induction once he locates the princess. Raksha agrees and Liad rushes off with Neo and Suseri. Tracing the trail, the trio arrives at an abandoned research lab in the Ruins district. Neo notes the facility's state, while Liad confirms the teleportation coordinates point here. However, Liad senses something disturbing. The mana is technically Hiyori's, but it is overwhelmingly dominated by a much stronger foreign source. Suddenly, Hiyori appears floating before them with closed eyes. Neo confirms this energy is the source of her suffering. The ogre god, Ice Snow Yaksha. Hiyori's body transforms, becoming encased in a terrifying, skeleton-like structure of ice. Speaking through her, the Yaksha mocks Neo as the brat that came at me once in the past, before shooting a beam of ice that stabs him directly. As Neo falls, memories flood his mind. He remembers initially hating Hiyori, believing she was a spoiled princess, until he learned she was a vessel for the ogre god, destined to be sacrificed to settle a calamity. He realized she avoided owning anything to prevent the pain of losing attachments. Despite this, Neo wanted to stay by her side, watching her struggle with the fear of hurting others and hiding her troubles even after making friends. Back in the present, Neo clutches his chest and begs Liad to save her before collapsing. Suseri tells Liad to look after him and leaps toward the ogre god, demanding Hiyori answer her. She pierces the ice skeleton, but the Yaksha merely laughs, mocking Suseri as a fake prince modeled after her older brother, who lacks the ability to reach Hiyori's true feelings. Before Suseri can react, the dark skeleton stabs her through the chest. Liliad screams her name as she falls, lamenting that she couldn't become a real friend. He catches her and attempts healing magic, but the entity declares it useless. The Yaksha explains that it's ice nest within the heart, penetrating the mind based on the strength of the victim's guilt. Seeing his friend's bonds trampled upon, Liad clenches his teeth, refusing to stand for it. The Yaksha launches another attack, declaring it will let no one stand in its way. Liad grabs both Neo and Suseri, dashing away while forming a circular shield to deflect the blow. The Yaksha sneers that having too much to protect makes a warrior weak. Suddenly, a massive blast strikes the ogre god. Liad forms a shield to protect his group but realizes the attack didn't come from him. Standing amidst the dust, a man looks at Liad with disappointment, asking what he is doing. Liad turns to the new arrival, surprised to see Jild standing there. The demon noble explains that he noticed Liad leaving the party and followed him out of curiosity, only to stumble upon this mess. Jild declares that he doesn't know or care what is going on, but he refuses to sit back and watch Liad get frozen. He arrogantly claims that his flames are the only thing allowed to take Liad down. Liad smiles at the rivalry. Jild explains his confidence. Just as the Oni Empire has an ogre god, the Demon Empire possesses a demon god. Since he can call upon similar divine power, he is the perfect counter to this enemy. Liad warns him that Princess Hiyori is inside the monster. Attacking it means attacking her. Jild acknowledges the risk, stating they simply need to be precise. Jild initiates the attack using Frega Rosina. He commands evil spirits to manifest as chains, which erupt from the ground and bind the Yaksha's 4 limbs, sealing its movement. He signals Liad to strike. Liad nods. Mimicking the fire magic he copied from Jild during their previous duel, he synchronizes his attack with the demon noble. They unleash a combined burst of energy that obliterates the ogre god's head. However, the victory is short-lived. The chains shatter as the monster regenerates instantly. The Yaksha mocks them, explaining that it has no true corporeal body. It resides within the mind. To kill the Yaksha is to deny Hiyori. Unless they destroy her mind, the monster cannot die. Jild realizes that physical destruction is meaningless. Liad understands that they cannot destroy the vessel. They must wake Hiyori up. However, she is trapped deep within the frozen cage of her own heart. Desperate for a solution, Liad's mind drifts to a memory of Arzmeria. In the past, she asked him what his magic existed for, warning that if he couldn't answer, his domain art would remain incomplete. Back then, Liad believed his magic existed solely to protect Arzmeria. She had told him that this narrow mindset was his problem. Liad finally understands. Arzmeria was able to cast the greatest magic, the anti-war domain, because she sought to protect everyone. He recalls the Yaksha's earlier taunt that having too much to protect makes a warrior weak. Liad rejects that philosophy. He realizes that the more he has to protect, the stronger he becomes. That is the true core of a domain artist. Channeling this conviction, Liad activates his Guardian Art 4th form. He extends his hand, releasing a wave of unending heat. The temperature rises so drastically that the yaksha's ice bones begin to melt. The ogre god screams in confusion, unable to comprehend the power that bypasses its defenses. Jild watches in awe as the monster falls apart. Seeing the opening, Liad leaps into the air. He plunges his hand through the melting ribcage and grasps Hiyori's hand. Utilizing mana circulation, he doesn't just transfer energy, he dives into her consciousness. Liad finds himself inside the depths of her freezing heart. There he spots Hiyori sleeping, surrounded by sharp, protective crystals. The narrative shifts to a flashback of Hiyori's childhood. A young princess tries to show the maids a small ice sculpture she made, but they dismiss her, focused only on preparing her sleeping chamber. Hiyori sadly notes that the sculpture will melt before anyone sees it. Suddenly, a dark voice whispers in her mind, "Eyes will not melt." Since that day, the voice grew stronger, mirroring the growth of her mana. Hiyori grew to hate this power because it hurt Neo and isolated her from everyone else. The entity told her she was merely a cage designed to seal the ice-snow yaksha and prevent a calamity. Believing her life only had meaning as a sacrifice, Hiyori gave up on her future and cast aside her connections. Yet the loneliness remained. In the darkness of her mindscape, Hiyori sees a floating book. She recognizes it as one of the romance novels she used to read. She realizes that although she gave up on love for herself, she always loved the stories where a prince comes to save the heroine. Suddenly, Liad's voice pierces the darkness, calling her name. Hiyori realizes the voice she heard wasn't the problem. The problem was that she was too scared to listen to the voices of those who cared. Awakening within her subconscious, Hiyori stands before the yaksha. The entity mocks her, repeating that she is nothing more than a cage with no future. Hiyori retorts that she doesn't care about the future. She wants to live in the present. She dashes forward and embraces the terrifying spirit, declaring she is leaving the cage. In the real world, the ice shatters. Liad catches Hiyori as she falls, quickly wrapping his coat around her as they land. Crying, Hiyori thanks him for reaching his hand out to her. She smiles, declaring she is fine now. She cannot erase the ogre god, but she can live with it and will no longer be afraid. Neo wakes up nearby, shouting her name. Hiyori kneels before him, apologizing for making him suffer for so long, and thanking him for sharing her pain. The guard weeps openly. Hiyori then turns to Suseri. She admits she didn't want to worry her friend, but realizes she should have relied on her instead of running away. Suseri questions if she has the right to be with her, but Hiyori holds her hand, expressing a desire to learn more about each other now that they are classmates. The two friends hug tearfully. Liad approaches, handing Hiyori a cloth to wipe her tears. He brushes off her apology for the mess at the entrance ceremony, noting fortunately that no one was injured. Neo realizes this is thanks to Hiyori, who must have restrained the ogre god's lethality even while unconscious. Liad asks a difficult question. Does she remember who kidnapped her? Hiyori attempts to recall the event, but a sharp pain shoots through her head. She drops to her knees, clutching her skull. She tells them she cannot remember anything. It feels like that specific part of her mind has been painted over. Liad tells her not to force it, but internally his expression darkens. He realizes that while the immediate danger is over, someone with clearly nefarious intentions still lurks within the academy. The next day, Liad and Kanan arrive at the classroom early, finding it completely empty. Liad remarks that they seem to be the first ones there, but internally he is tense, his mind replaying the events of yesterday. He recalls encountering Miria in the hallway after the rescue. His mother had hugged him tightly, thanking him for protecting everyone and for relying on an adult for help. She acknowledged his immense strength, but reminded him gently that he is still just a child and shouldn't push himself too hard. Liad had realized that to her, he is currently just her son. He apologized for worrying her, admitting there was something he wanted to investigate. He explained his deduction. The perpetrator knew about the ogre god, classified information within the Oni Empire. This implied the enemy was well acquainted with imperial internal affairs and would likely target another princess soon. Miria had assured him she would handle the investigation and use her position at the academy to protect the students' peace, urging him to rest for now. Back in the present, Liad sits at his desk. Kanan asks if he is okay, worried he might still be exhausted. Liad assures her he is fine thanks to her healing magic, but he privately wonders about Princess Hiyori. It is the day after a traumatic event, and he worries she might be feeling down. Just then, Hiyori bursts into the room, shouting excitedly to her guards that she is number one. She is so energetic that Liad is amazed. When she spots him, she gets flustered, realizing he arrived even earlier. Hiyori explains she was too excited to wait for Suseri, who had morning training. Liad expresses relief that she is feeling well. Hiyori blushes and holds his hand, reminding him that he promised to help her if she had any problems. She says she is new to this and will be counting on him. Liad is flustered by the contact. Kanan, sensing a rival, interjects quickly, offering her own assistance with healing magic. Hiyori, undeterred, grabs Kanan's hand too, nodding enthusiastically. She whispers to Kanan that it has always been her dream to gossip about love. Kanan is taken aback by her pure enthusiasm. Erisiel, the holy princess, arrives next. She offers a polite greeting to Hyri, noting they missed the gathering yesterday. She glances at Liad, hinting she suspects something happened, but chooses not to pry to avoid causing a ruckus with Aurelis. She advises them to act as if they had seen the other princesses take the stage. Hiyori, touched by her consideration, grabs Erisiel's hand and thanks her profusely. Erisiel is shocked by the physical affection, but murmurs that if only the other princesses were as pure as her, life would be easier. Suddenly, the beast princesses, Yuzuriha and Kuzunoha, enter the room, having overheard the comment. They sniff Hiyori, noting that her scent is different. The scary smell is weaker than usual. Hiyori worries she smells weird, but the twins assure her they like the current her. Kuzunoha adds mischievously that she also detects Liad's scent on her. Liad panics internally. Aurelis, the demon princess, enters next, complaining about the morning ruckus. Hiyori immediately marches up to her, grabbing her hand and introducing herself warmly. Liad thinks that her method of closing the distance is perhaps a bit too sudden. Professor Siaba enters, surprised to see everyone so early. He asks Liad to accompany him to pick up class materials. As they prepare to leave, Siaba mentions they haven't decided on the other class representative yet. This sparks a sudden competition. Aurelis realizes becoming the representative would give her a chance to be with Liad during duty hours. Erisiel argues she is the most appropriate candidate. The beast princesses tease her for being too strict. Unexpectedly, Ryonea, the dragon princess, volunteers, bluntly stating she wants to learn more about Liad. The class erupts into chaos as everyone vies for the position. Aurelis turns to Kanan, placing a hand on her shoulder. She declares that Kanan will be the judge to decide who is worthy of standing beside His Excellency. Kanan freaks out, mentally crying for help as the situation spirals out of control. The classroom descends into an argument as the princesses decide to settle who is most worthy of being the female class representative. Meanwhile, Hiyori settles into her seat to watch. Neo chides her, advising her not to take part in such a foolish conflict. Raksha adds that she should avoid stress, but Hiyori waves them off. She declares that this is practically a battle for Liad's love, and she intends to watch it from a VIP seat. Her guards sigh, realizing that while she is better, she is now going off the rails in a completely different direction. Aurelis takes the floor first. She argues that since she and His Excellency have crossed swords, only someone who understands him on that level can perform group work with him properly. One of the beast princesses retorts that she only fought him because she pestered him into it. Aurelis' own guards whisper among themselves. One points out that while the defeat was humiliating, becoming class rep would give her a chance for victory. However, another guard raises a concern. Being a representative might cut into Her Highness's daily self-care time. Aurelis overhears this and freezes. She is torn between wanting to be with Liad and maintaining her beauty routine to remain worthy of him. Seeing her hesitation, the beast princesses jump in. They claim that since Aurelis is conflicted, they should do it instead to ensure a free and fun class. Erisiel asks which one of them is the candidate. The twins whisper to each other before declaring that both of them will be the candidate. Erisiel points out the obvious. There is only room for one representative, which is the whole reason for this conflict. The beast princesses hold hands, insisting that the two of them count as one person. Aurelis laughs, mocking them by saying that if they only add up to one person together then apart, they are only half a person each. Frustrated, the twins turn to their bodyguard Rukin, demanding he back them up. However, Erisiel coldly states that if they cannot follow simple rules, their work as representatives will likely be sloppy. Rukin trembles under the Holy Princess's gaze and refuses to go against the rules, earning him the title of traitor from the twins. Hiyori, acting as a commentator, remarks that she didn't expect the demon princess to drop out first. Kanan sighs, lamenting that her brother is a sinful man. Hiyori asks if Kanan isn't going to participate. teasing that someone might steal her brother. Kanan declines, smugly noting that she has him all to herself outside of class anyway. This sparks Hiyori's curiosity and she begs for details. With the others out, only Ryunea and Erisiel remain as final candidates. Erisiel expresses surprise, noting she thought the Dragon Princess had no interest in such matters. Ryunea bluntly replies that she is only interested in Lyod because he is a new tool, and she doesn't sense the strength to stand above others from anyone else in the room. Erisiel counters that a representative must unite the class, a role unsuited for someone as uncooperative as Ryunea. Ryunea shoots back, accusing Erisiel of acting pure and righteous, only because she binds herself with rules to maintain her human pretense. Insulted, Erisiel's guards step forward to defend the dignity of the Holy Empire. The Beast Princesses mock Erisiel for relying on others to get angry for her. The argument escalates until Aurelius shouts that bickering will reflect poorly in His Highness's eyes. The Beast Princesses retort that it's rich coming from the girl who challenged him to a duel. Just as the chaos peaks, Suseri enters the room carrying a stack of files. Hiyori greets her happily, noting she finished training. Suseri explains she ran into Lyod and Professor Siaba on the way and helped them carry the materials. Aurelius complains that Suseri is interrupting their selection process. Suseri is confused, pointing out that if they wanted to be the representative, they should have been helping Lyod instead of waiting around arguing. The room falls silent. The Beast Princesses admit that Aurelius's ruckus made them forget that simple fact. Erisiel admits Suseri has a point. It was thoughtless of them. Ryunea concludes that this means Suseri, who actually took action, wins by default. The Beast Princesses agree she seems appropriate for the role. Hiyori cheers, congratulating Suseri. The human princess stands there, bewildered, asking what in the world is going on. Lyod enters a moment later, asking Kanan if something happened. She tells him it's all settled. Suseri's guard smirks, wishing he had seen the drama. Erisiel notes it is rare for everyone to accept the same outcome. Aurelius, trying to save face, claims that after careful consideration, the role sounds like too much work. The Beast Princesses agree, deciding they can just play with Lyod some other time. Suseri realizes they are just too lazy to do the work. Later, Lyod officially appoints Suseri as the female class representative. She accepts, blushing slightly as they agree to do their best to improve the class together. Aurelius immediately slides between them, trying to sign up for classes with Lyod. Watching Lyod engage with everyone, Suseri thinks to herself that he is truly beloved by all. She clenches her fist in resolution, vowing to become more like him. Back at the Human Empire dorm, Suseri is training alone. She swings her sword relentlessly, but her mind is plagued by a recent memory. She recalls the Ice Snow Yaksha, mocking her during the incident with Hiyori, insulting her as a fake prince molded after her older brother. Frustrated, she takes a breath and tells herself she needs to be stronger, or she will never be able to become like Lyod. Later at the academy, the teacher makes an announcement. Next week, the school will hold the Spring Magic Festival. The special class will be divided into 2 teams for a mock battle. The leaders of the opposing teams will be the class representatives, Lyod and Suseri. The teacher explains the rules, stating that everyone will wear a special magic uniform. Students must launch their mana at the opposing team. If a uniform is hit by someone else's mana, the holographic portion of the fabric will change color, signifying that the student is dyed and disqualified. The objective is to take down the enemy leader. Since the uniforms utilize holographic technology, the strength of the attack does not matter, making it a safe, friendly match. The students change into their gear. The Beast Princesses admire the outfits, watching the colors shift. Kanan tells her brother that this seems fun. Lyod agrees, thinking that since the princesses often come to blows, this is the perfect opportunity to make them work together. He hopes it will help unite the class. The teams are randomized. Aurelius, the demon princess, smiles and declares that even though it is a game, the only acceptable outcome is victory. Hiyori, the Oni princess, is just glad to play along. Lyod encourages everyone to work together and enjoy it to the fullest. Aurelius scoffs at him, asking why His Excellency is being so soft and united. Meanwhile, Suseri notices the chatter on the other side and steels herself. She gathers her team around a table to map out a strategy. She proposes a complex plan where Neo and Rukin will scout the enemy formation. Once they figure out the movement, Rian and Uraha will ambush from the flank, while the main assault force follows this formation. Neo complains immediately, asking if he really has to scout with the dog guard. Rukin, the beast guard, snaps back that his name is Rukin, though he agrees the two of them seem insufficient for the task. Another guard asks if there is a weakness in Suseri's placement. Rian sighs, admitting he cannot get fired up about this. Ericiel, the Holy Princess, steps in to critique the plan. She points out that Suseri's formation assumes they have a diversion, and that the advancing force makes significant progress. She questions the wisdom of having their general on the front lines. Suseri gets annoyed, arguing that true leaders cannot hide behind their subordinates while leaving them to fight alone. A male student retorts that while they are a team, he doesn't remember ever becoming the princess's subordinate. Ericiel reminds her that if the general gets taken down, it is instant defeat. She asks if Suseri is telling them she plans to run around fighting recklessly. Defensive, Suseri asks if she is supposed to just hide without fighting. She turns to Rayunea for backup, noting that the dragon princess doesn't seem to object. Rayunea yawns, admitting she was sleeping because the conversation was boring. Ericiel delivers the final blow. She points out that Suseri, hailing from the human empire, specializes in enchanting weapons. However, this battle involves only shooting raw mana. She bluntly states that the human princess is not very good at this specific type of combat. She asks Suseri to choose whether she wants to win or whether she wants to stand out. She adds that since it is a game, they will abide by whatever the leader chooses, causing the morale in the room to plummet. Suseri is flustered and confused. Across the room, Liad notices her distress and tries to walk over to check on her. He is blocked by Uraha, Suseri's guard. Uraha warns him that if he heads over now, it will look like he is a brazen spy. She asks him not to worry about her master. She explains that ever since the burden of succession fell on Suseri, the princess has been trying her best to fill her brother's shoes. While it might look silly to others, being responsible for people means everything to her. Uraha asks Liad to let Suseri handle this on her own. Liad smiles, agreeing to back off. He thinks to himself that her anxiety reminds him of his past, when he was first recommended to the Imperial Royal Guard and met Arsmeria. Suddenly, Yuzuriha, one of the beast princesses on Liad's team, tugs at him. She honestly points out that their team seems to be having even more problems. Liad turns to see the demon and beast factions almost fighting each other. He rushes into the middle to calm everyone down. Meanwhile, Suseri remains at her table, clearly tense and isolated. Afterward, at the forest area, the Spring Magic Festival's special class event, Magic Paint, is about to begin. The announcement signals the start, and everyone runs toward their assigned positions. Suseri, sitting at her base, reviews her strategy. Her main force consists of 5 members with scouts sent in each cardinal direction to prevent the enemy from approaching undetected. Once Liad's forces are found, her team will advance while maintaining a defensive formation without glaring weaknesses. She waits, expecting her scouts to report an enemy sighting by now. Suddenly, a voice comes through her earpiece. Neo apologizes, reporting that he cannot locate the enemy main force. Suseri asks if they are nearby, but Neo explains the confusing reality that Liad's team has split into independent pairs of 2. They are moving randomly, making it impossible to pinpoint where Liad is being protected. Rukin confirms the same situation on his end. Suseri is shocked but quickly realizes the tactical brilliance. By splitting into the smallest viable grouping of 2, Liad's team offers both safety and mobility. They can respond to threats anywhere, and by spreading out, they have effectively surrounded her team without her realizing it. Suddenly, the beast princesses, Yuzuriha and Kuzunoha, shout from behind Suseri, announcing their ambush. She shouts a warning, and 2 of her teammates step forward to hold the line. The beast princesses summon spirit wolves to charge the defenders. One girl panics as the pack approaches, but another member reminds her that her specialty is dispelling magic. However, instead of attacking, the spirit wolves start affectionately licking the girl. The twins are confused, wondering if the beasts have taken a liking to her, but since her clothes changed color upon contact, she is disqualified anyway. Another defender, Ericiel, realizes she needs to reduce the number of beast spirits. She casts a spell to send energy rings that bind the wolves, causing them to vanish. She realizes too late that the beasts were a distraction to separate her from Suseri. The twins must be after the leader. Just then, Hiyori appears behind her, apologizing as she tags Ericiel. The Holy Princess is stunned to see her there. Hiyori smiles, wearing a light blue suit to indicate she is on Liad's team. Ericiel calls for backup through her earpiece, asking where everyone is. Uraha responds that she has lots of enemies on her side and cannot move. Another member reports being taken out. Ryunea advises Suseri to survive as best she can. If the leader can lure the enemies to her position, the dragon princess will take them out. Suseri agrees and runs, lamenting that her defensive formation, which relied on numbers, was dismantled so easily. She leaps into a tree, but the beast princesses spot her. Aurelis, the demon princess, jumps down in front of her with a smug smile, asking for any last words. She explains their strategy involved splitting into pairs to ensure safety, with the specific goal of cornering Suseri. She reveals this plan was devised by her partner and leader, Leod. Suseri asks why Aurelis would reveal her strategy. The beast princesses tease Aurelis for her bad habit of gloating before the end. Aurelis snaps at them but claims she felt it would be pitiful for Suseri to lose without knowing why. Surrounded by 3 enemies, Suseri refuses to give up. She picks up a fallen stick and stands her ground. Aurelis smirks, asking what she plans to do with that. Suseri casts an enchantment spell, transforming the stick into a glowing sword. She unleashes a sword art technique, shooting a beam of starlight at the demon princess before sprinting forward. Aurelis is shocked that such a move is allowed. As she runs, Suseri thinks that while the stick isn't a real weapon, it is enough. Her victory condition is simple: take down Leod. Since Aurelis is his partner, he must be nearby. She uses her technique to slash through the forest, hoping to flush him out by covering every potential hiding spot in her attack radius. However, she finds no one. She panics, thinking there shouldn't be anywhere left to hide. Suddenly, Leod's voice cuts through the air. He explains that it is precisely because her plan was perfect that it could be read in advance. He steps out into the open. Suseri asks why he charged from the front instead of using the terrain. Leod smiles, admitting that in a real battle she would be right. However, since they are just reading each other's actions in a game, he figured he would be fine. The beast princesses cheer for him to get her. Suseri tightens her grip on her sword, shouting that it isn't over yet. She slashes at him, but Leod blocks the attack with a barrier. The twins remind her that they are there too, and prepare to attack. Suddenly, Runea arrives, apologizing for being late and declaring she won't let them interrupt the duel. Leod and Suseri face off. She shouts that she must become stronger and win, as that is what it means to be a leader. Leod realizes that even though this is just a game, she is facing him with everything she has. In that case, he decides it is only right to respond in kind. The battle rages on. Suseri unleashes Star Sword Art North Star, slashing toward her opponent. Leod counters immediately with Guardian Art First Form, Circular Shield, blocking the attack effortlessly. Suseri retreats, frustration mounting. She thinks that her stance and swings are perfect, yet they aren't working. Doubts creep in, and she wonders how someone like her can possibly live up to the role of leader. Just as she begins to spiral, a voice cuts through the noise. "Princess Suseri, do your best." She turns around to see her entire team cheering her on. They shout that nothing gets them more fired up than a comeback victory and call her cool. RCL, usually strict, yells for her to hang in there. Suseri realizes that the reason leaders shoulder such heavy responsibilities is because of the people supporting them. She understands that the way Leod cared for people, and the way they loved him in return, was why she looked up to him in the first place. With renewed resolve, she decides to stop copying others and do what she can do right now. She switches styles, utilizing Moon Sword Art Half Moon. The slash comes at an awkward, unpredictable angle. Leod knits his eyebrows. Realizing her movement has completely changed, her style has shifted from a formal technique to something personal and unreadable. On top of that, the single strike holds immense weight. Suseri admits she isn't as good as her older brother or Leod, nor can she become someone else. However, because there are those who need her right now, she can still shine. She unleashes Moon Sword Art, Gibbous Moon, forming a massive circle of power. Watching from the sidelines, the beast princesses mutter in disbelief, asking if that is really just a stick. At this point, it has practically become a real sword. Ryunea observes that while Leod can create shields out of nothing, Suseri specializes in enhancement. As long as she has a base to start with, she can turn it into infinite possibilities. Her responsibility and strong will have birthed a true sword from a simple twig. Her teammates cheer from the trees, calling their princess super cool. Leod, blocking the heavy blows, thinks this is the strength of someone who fights for others rather than themselves. However, he reminds himself that he isn't the only one who cannot afford to lose. He needs to change the flow of the battle somehow. Suddenly, a strange anomaly occurs. The air around Leod glitches. He calculates that even if he enchanted a stick, he couldn't match her proficiency. He needs an opportunity to counter. Just then, a spear falls from the sky and stabs into the ground between them. Liad's eyes widen. He recognizes it. He wonders why it is here and what is going on, but he feels an inexplicable magnetic pull toward the weapon. His body moves on its own and he grabs the shaft. However, he feels another hand already holding it. Liad turns his head and freezes. Standing there, gripping the spear with him, is Freed, his rival and comrade from 1,000 years ago. The beast princesses, watching from the outside, are confused, asking if that spear was always there. They shout for Liad to fight back. Suddenly he moves with blinding, lightning-fast speed, dashing away. Ryunea narrows her eyes, muttering that something is clearly wrong. Suzeri seizes the opening and attacks, thinking she has him. She strikes, but Liad blocks her true sword effortlessly with the spear. She smiles, ready to press the advantage, but her smile falters when she looks at his face. The man standing before her feels completely different, almost not human. She whispers his name, terrified by the change. Liad's appearance changes drastically. His skin turns a dull gray, leaving only his eyes shining with an eerie light. Suzeri is confused, asking him what is going on. He moves as if unconscious, yet she cannot find a single opening in his defense. His movements are unreadable and impossibly fast. As they continue to clash, she analyzes him. She realizes that he is incredibly strong and must have been holding back significantly earlier. However, the way he fights now exceeds the level of a game or a duel. This is the ruthless style of someone fighting on a battlefield. Meanwhile, Kanan starts running toward her brother, shouting his name and asking why he is acting like that. She tries to cast healing mana on him, but realizes he has rejected her mana induction. She tries to reach him telepathically, but their mind link has been severed. High above the arena, a mysterious woman floating in the sky watches Kanan. She mutters to herself, "Oh, I would prefer if you did not try to rain on his parade." This is, after all, Guardian Vance's big moment. With a wave of her hand, she triggers a massive blast. A dense dust cloud erupts, enveloping the combatants and blocking them from view. The students outside are alerted. One Guardian asks if this is a domain art, while another notes that the mana density is too high to penetrate. Ryunea, the dragon princess, tries to clear the cloud with a powerful strike, but the dust doesn't budge. The barrier is too sturdy and their transmitters are blocked. Everyone wonders what in the world is going on inside. Inside the cloud, Suseri stands her ground, realizing she is trapped in a domain of darkness. The mana filling the space feels nothing like Liad. The way he fights right now lacks the elegance and ease he usually exhibits. It is as if he has completely lost control. She notices his uniform responding to external mana, and deduces that the spear he picked up is the cause. She shouts at him to let go of the weapon. She attacks the spear directly, screaming his name, but it feels like he isn't listening at all. In reality, Liad's consciousness is standing in a void in front of Freed. He thinks, "Freed, what are you doing here? This is so weird. Right now, I am Liad." However, his thoughts are interrupted as he looks at the spear in his hand. The weapon turns into dark energy, crawling up his arm and sucking him into the darkness. He wonders what he did to make Freed hate him so much, fearing that at this rate he will be swallowed completely. Back in the physical world, Suzeri struggles against the berserk Eliod. She realizes she cannot force him to let go of the spear. She decides she must figure out a way to stun him. She executes Moonsword art, Crescent Moon, striking with pure light. However, the darkness consumes her attack instantly. She realizes her enchanted magic isn't strong enough. She concludes that she cannot win by relying on force. Instead, she needs disenchantment magic, specifically Order Enchant. It is an area of effect technique used to neutralize enemy armies by tearing away their mana. It is a secret technique only taught to the imperial family of the human empire. She hesitates, wondering if she can pull it off with her current skill level. However, her thoughts stop when she looks at Liad's face and sees tears dripping from his shining eyes. Outside, the Guardians are panic-stricken, debating whether to call a teacher. Kanan prays desperately, asking why she cannot reach her brother. Aurelis steps up, ordering everyone to calm down. She insists that Liad and Suseri are their elected leaders and they must believe in them. Inside the domain, Suseri steals her resolve. She knows she is far from perfecting the move, but she must do it to save him. She tries to locate him, but he vanishes, completely merging with the darkness. When she finally realizes where he is, it is too late. He is right in front of her, the pointed spear thrusting toward her chest. Suseri does not have a chance to dodge his strike. However, just as the blow is about to land, Liad's vision warps. The image of the girl in front of him shifts, changing into Arsmeria. He pauses, his mind reeling as if he is losing control. The vision speaks, wishing to see a world free from conflict. Liad thinks that he knows this person. She continues, stating that she wants him by her side to realize that dream. As she does not have much time left, he thinks that he does not want to do anything that would upset her. She says that since he is unable to imagine the future, then as his master she shall paint one for him. He realizes she is the most important person in his life. In the vision they hold hands, and she smiles, calling him her shining light that never vanished. Liad begins to emerge from the darkness that wrapped around him, regaining his senses. He asks himself who he is, why he is here, and how he could forget something so important. Finally, he breaks through the despair, shouting that he cannot lose sight of his reason for being here. He yells out to Fried, asking what happened and why he is there, but the darkness tries to wrap around him again. In reality, his hand freezes in midair just inches from Suseri. Seeing the opening, she leaps above him, thinking that now is her only chance to shine light on him. She unleashes the human empire's secret technique, blasting him with a burst of purifying lightning. His entire body lights up. Inside his consciousness, the black threads consuming him begin to fade. He wonders if this light is coming from Princess Suseri. In front of him, the image of Fried also starts to fade away. Suddenly, the darkness is replaced by a blinding brilliance. In the real world, the dark cloud surrounding the arena dissipates. Everyone watches as the domain falls apart. The mysterious enemy who orchestrated the event mutters about wanting to watch for a longer time but accepts that they have already achieved their goal before slipping away. Liad lies unconscious on the ground for a moment before stirring and standing up. Suseri runs toward him. When he looks at her confusedly, she hugs him tightly, crying out in relief. The other princesses are shocked to see Suseri hugging him so openly. Realizing what she is doing, the human princess pulls away, blushing and stammering that there is a very good reason for this. Aurelius smirks, claiming she knew they would be fine. A guard steps in to check the results. He announces that this means Suseri won. Aurelius shouts in disbelief. The guard points out that Liad's clothes have been stained by the magic paint from Suseri's attack. Suseri realizes she won while trying to save him. Her teammates leap onto her, cheering for their victory. Hiyori asks if Liad is okay. He smiles, apologizing and admitting it seems he lost. The beast princesses tell him it doesn't matter because they had a lot of fun. Kanan approaches her brother. Through their telepathic link, she tells him that she was terrified when their connection was suddenly cut off. He apologizes for worrying her, admitting he isn't sure what happened himself. Internally, however, his thoughts are dark. He thinks about the moment he touched that spear and lost his consciousness. Noting that the spear is gone now, he asks Fried what is going on in this academy. After the events of the festival, peace returns to the noble district at the Heavenly Empire dorm. Everyone is asleep, but Lade is outside with Bast, the king of cats. Liad climbs down from the beast, thanking him for training with him as always. Bastet notes that they have been doing this for 8 years, so it would be strange to stop now. The cat asks how the game in the forest went. Liad sits down heavily, admitting that he lost. He explains that during the fight he touched a spear that suddenly appeared on the battlefield. The darkness within it consumed him, and in the worst-case scenario he might have harmed Princess Suseri. Bastet cleans his paws, asking if this is related to the conspiracy Muria is investigating. Liad isn't sure. He opens up further, revealing that an old friend suddenly appeared before him during the blackout. He explains that this man was his best friend, someone he climbed the ranks with, close enough to be considered family. Yet the man's eyes were unbelievably cold. Liad wonders if his friend hated him. Bastet is surprised, noting he never knew Liad had a best friend. Liad realizes he spoke without thinking. Bastet presses him, pointing out that for the last 8 years, Liad has snuck out to train in secret, while promising to one day reveal who he truly is. Liad falls silent. He thinks about the restrictions preventing him from speaking about his past life, yet he feels a desperate need to share the truth. He wonders if he is feeling lonely because his friend cast him aside. He admits aloud that he has precious memories he cannot share, but it feels like someone has intruded upon them, twisting something that should have been unchanging. Bastet wraps his tail around the boy, offering wisdom. He states that change is a fact of life. The only thing that hasn't changed in the last 100 years is the length of his tail. He advises Liad that if he wishes to pursue the unchanging, he simply needs to return to his normal, unwavering strength. He adds that brooding for 3 days is long enough. Liad smiles, thanking him. He tries to turn the table, asking if Bastet has any friends other than him. He notes that a book he read stated cats sometimes form groups. Bastet gets annoyed, snapping that cats do not travel in packs and telling Leod to go talk to his book instead. Later that morning, Kanan serves breakfast. Mayuria reveals that she and the maids, Sol and Cosette, wanted to surprise him by cooking together. As they eat, the maids offer to lend Leod old quizzes for his general courses. Kanan asks about campus life, and the maids happily describe the cafeteria's multi-empire cuisine. Leod feels a wave of nostalgia, reminding him of life back at the mansion, but tells himself to snap out of his emotional state. On the way to school, Muria offers to show the siblings around, but Leod notices someone waiting for him. It is Raksha, Princess Hiyori's guard. Raksha apologizes for the unannounced visit, explaining that Hiyori gave her leave to come. Miuria encourages her to speak, as she is also investigating the matter. Raksha reveals a critical connection. The specific magic used to kidnap Hiyori matches the manner in which the Dark Domain was formed during the Magic Festival. Leod realizes it is indeed a single culprit targeting the princesses. Raksha trembles, noting that domain and hypothesis magic are high-tier arts, meaning the enemy is incredibly powerful. She drops to her knees crying. She confesses she is scared because she couldn't do anything back then, and fears she won't be able to protect her charge in the future. Leod empathizes deeply with her sense of powerlessness. He takes her hand, thanking her for sharing her worries. He tells her that as a fellow guardian and class representative, she is important to him, and he wishes to help her. Raksha blushes at the sudden compliment. Muria quips from behind that it is too early in the morning for pickup lines. Leod quickly corrects himself, clarifying he meant she is an important classmate. Raksha giggles and vanishes using teleportation, saying she will see them in class. Leod notes that she can teleport without a device, which is impressive. He analyzes the situation. The enemy targeted Hiyori, then Suzeri. He needs to capture the perpetrator before they strike again. Myria tells him she will handle the investigation while he focuses on being a diligent student. The school day begins. The special class goes through their schedule. Fundamental magic exercises, introduction to magic history, classical heavenly language, and magical research tools. Finally, for the 5th period, a new teacher enters the room. She smiles cheerfully, introducing herself as Professor Yuyuka. Leod freezes. It is the same woman who kidnapped Hiyori and caused the chaos with the dust cloud during the festival. Yuyuka introduces herself to the class, stating her name is Yuyuka Amanagi and that she works as the head of the research lab. She explains she also researches magic tools in the research and development department and looks forward to working with everyone. Seeing her, Leod feels a sense of déjà vu, thinking he has met her somewhere before. Yuyuka explains that she will be teaching the research equipment class. Today, they will be making a rod-shaped magic tool, also known as a magic staff. She instructs the students to first pick a large, transparent magic stone to serve as the output for their magic. Then, they must choose a base made of either metal or glass. Finally, they are to attach additional supplementary magic stones of various colors to the base, considering their mana usage. First-year students are limited to adding up to 2 stones. She points them toward a box full of materials. The beast princesses marvel at the stones, saying they look like jewelry. Ryunea, the dragon princess, picks one up skeptically. She asks what the point of these staves is, noting they can use magic just fine without them. Yuyuka explains that by using different colored supplementary stones, they can use magic from mana types they weren't born with. Erisiel, the holy princess, realizes the implication. This tool allows them to transmit their mana through the staff and output it as a different element, opening up new combat options. She decides to make a golden staff arranged with blood roses. Another princess notes that while red matches Erisiel, she wonders if there is a point in using a stone of the same color one can already use. Yuyuka praises the observation, explaining that using a matching stone allows for higher output than normal. Suseri quickly grasps the concept. She explains that normally their mana is outputted in a scattered fashion, like rain. By passing it through a staff, they can focus it onto a single point, forming a waterfall. Even a heavy downpour cannot match the pressure of a waterfall. Thus, the staff allows for higher precision and power, even without changing elements. Image comparing scattered rain versus waterfall monoflow. Erisiel summarizes that the tool acts as both a converter and a straightener. Yuyuka adds that the base materials have different affinities with each stone, encouraging them to experiment. One of the beast princesses bets Suseri is good at this. Suseri picks up a wooden stick, deducing that water and wind likely have good affinity with a wooden base. Yuyuka claps, confirming she is correct. Meanwhile, Liad reflects on the technology. He recalls the gigantic magic tool at the entrance exam and the uniforms used during the festival. He admits he thought staves would have fallen out of fashion after 1,000 years, so he hadn't expected their vestiges to remain or improve into such easy-to-use forms. Suddenly, Yuyuka approaches him from behind, noting he doesn't seem very interested. Liad greets her formally. She smiles, pointing out that since he has abandoned mana and is colorless, allowing him to change into any color naturally, he might not need this type of tool at all. Liad asks how she knows about his mana. She pouts, realizing he doesn't recognize her. She starts crying while hugging him, complaining that she missed him and has been waiting ever since the entrance exam. Liad suddenly remembers Professor Siaba mentioning a re-evaluation he never attended due to recent events. He apologizes sincerely. Yuyuka smiles, forgiving him, but declares she will have her fill of him today since it has been so long. Internally, however, her thoughts are darker. She thinks that she will never forgive him after all, claiming to know everything about Guardian Vance. She mentally reviews her investigation, hearing about a student with colorless mana, witnessing him use a domain art against the demon princess, and using the ogre princess to force him into action. Her analysis confirmed his domain art matched the base of the Heavenly Imperial anti-war domain. Her final test was checking if he resonated with a relic from 1,000 years ago, the spear. Thanks to his duel with the human princess, she confirmed he was drawn to it. She feels her hard work is finally being rewarded. Seeing her clinging to Liad, Aurelis asks why the professor is acting so chummy with his excellency. Hiyori states she cannot approve of an adult entering the fray, and Suzeri notes Liad seems to be in trouble. Just then, Kanan unleashes a menacing glare, shouting that Liad is her brother and demanding to know how Yuyuka dares. Suseri realizes Kanan has lost control and that they need to separate the two. Aurelis uses her newly made staff to throw an attack at Yuyuka, but it turns out to be a love charm spell. The magic backfires, making both Liad and Yuyuka flustered. Yuyuka suddenly takes off her coat, appearing to undress. The other princesses mutter, asking why she is pushing things forward. Aurelis insists that wasn't her intention. It was an accident. Yuyuka falls onto Liad, losing control of herself as she thinks about how close Guardian Vance is. Liad asks if she is injured, apologizing for the proximity. Yuyuka blushes harder as he touches her to push her away. Overwhelmed, she shouts, "Overdose?" and declares she is going to take a break, calling them crazy. Suseri notes they managed to drive her off for now. Hiyori asks what she was even doing there. The Beast Princesses point out that they are in the middle of class, asking why they drove the teacher away. Yuyuka vanishes, teleporting to another location. She feels flustered, thinking that Guardian Vance in the flesh is dangerous. Behind her, a dark figure speaks, noting that the spear seemed to be of use to her. She turns around and addresses him as Dean. He tells her he doesn't mind if she messes around a little, but warns her to keep herself in check, as she seems to lose all sense of priority when it comes to this matter. He asks what it was like meeting their legendary god-tier guardian. Yuyuka smiles, confirming he is no doubt Vance, the Silver Guardian from 1,000 years ago. Dean replies, naming him Vance Trail, and notes that in that case she has come alongside him, referring to her as the Heavenly Imperial. He holds up a book in his hand as he speaks. Afterward, outside the Heavenly Empire dorm in the Noble District, Kanan notices something isn't right. She asks her mother why she seems awfully worn out lately. Miuria sighs, admitting she has reached a critical point in the search regarding the recent incident. Ever since receiving the mana data from Liad's uniform, she has been comparing several registries of potential subjects. She notes it is fortunate that nothing has occurred in the last 2 weeks, but thanks, Kanan, for worrying. Liad thinks that the perpetrator not trying anything since the magic festival makes him more uncomfortable than he realized. In any case, it does not hurt to be careful. Miuria mentions that Dean has returned, so hopefully she will have the chance to inform him about what happened. Liad asks about him, noting they didn't see the man during the entrance exam or the ceremony. She explains that while she hasn't talked to him directly either, he is the youngest dean in history and is in charge of researching the anti-war domain. He published a thesis regarding the magic of the 7 empires at age 12 and enabled people to use any color of magic through magic tools. He is called the Kaleidoscope Prodigy. Since he is usually preoccupied with his research, he does not appear at most public events. Liad thinks that now he understands why they haven't met him yet. Miuria checks the time, noting it is still a little early, but she is going to head over to check the facility database. She believes she should be able to narrow down who the perpetrator is. Before leaving, she hugs both her children tightly, saying she doesn't want them to feel lonely even if she comes home late today. Later, during the first period of general education, the class is outside for magical strategy practicals. The teacher emphasizes that physical shape is incredibly important, as they must be capable of dealing with situations where their mana is limited or sealed. Liad stretches, thinking he likes physical education courses as they are a good change of pace. The teacher instructs them to split into their usual pairs and do 3 sets. Liad looks around, realizing Rukin isn't there today. Before he can find a partner, 2 male students approach him. One challenges him to a match, while the other, Jild, arrogantly tells his own partner to get lost because he isn't strong enough, insisting he will accompany Liad instead. Suddenly, a voice calls from above. The beast princesses Yuzuriha and Kuzunoha leap down from a tree, landing in front of Liad. They frantically ask if there is somewhere they can hide in the general class area. One of them suggests hiding and asks Liad to cast magic on them. Liad asks for an explanation. The girls panic, revealing that their father just showed up at the academy. Liad realizes their father means the Beast Emperor. Meanwhile, at the principal's office, the vice principal welcomes the guest, Kusunoki Tirfa, the Beast Emperor. He thanks her for looking after his daughters and asks where they are. He turns to Rukin, who hesitates, trying to cover for the princesses. Kusunoki commends Rukin for his loyalty but decides to search for them himself. He extends his hand, creating a ball of energy to track their mana signatures. Back in the classroom, Liad is hiding inside a large storage cabinet with both beast princesses. He senses the energy scan and activates Guardian Art's second form, anecoic, reducing their presence to the minimum and preventing sound from escaping. He assures them they should be safe for a while and asks what is going on. The girls explain that the teacher suddenly summoned them and told them their father had arrived from the Beast Empire. They knew him showing up out of nowhere couldn't be good news, so they ran to find Liad while Rukin went to stall him. Liad realizes that is why the guard was missing from class. Suddenly, a different kind of energy starts revolving around the cupboard. The girls giggle, shouting that it tickles. Liad insists he isn't doing anything. Kuzunoha laughs, complaining it is tight in there. A small mouse appears inside the cabinet. Liad is confused, but the girls realize it is not just a mouse, it is a miniature spirit used to find them. A blast blows the cabinet doors open, and the trio tumbles out. Liad thinks the mouse was a beacon. As they stand up, other students rush over, having heard the explosion. Kusunoki steps forward, declaring he has found them. The girls are amazed that he located them so quickly. Liad observes the imposing figure, thinking that this is the current Beast Emperor. Kusunoki orders them to come back with him to the Beast Empire. The daughters protest, arguing that it has barely been a month since they enrolled and they still have a lot to learn. Kusunoki compromises. Yuzuriha may continue her studies, but Kuzunoha needs to return home immediately. Kuzunoha shouts, asking why. Her father reveals he has a fiancé waiting for her back home. She is outraged, asking how he could decide something like that without asking. He dismissively says he will tell her more details on the way back. Refusing to accept this, Kuzunoha grabs Liad's hand. In a desperate gambit, she shouts that there is no way she is going back because she is already dating this guy. Everyone in the vicinity is stunned into silence, breathless at the sudden declaration. Liad is shocked by Kuzunoha's sudden declaration, but the Beast Emperor Kusunoki is even more incredulous. He asks if Liad understands what she is saying, questioning why, of all faces, she claims to fancy a tailless one. Kuzunoha defends her choice, insisting that Liad is amazing. She argues that she doesn't know what kind of fiancé her father has waiting at home, but Liad took first place in the entrance exam and is their class representative. She adds that he even managed to tame Bastet, the king of cats. Rukin, the guard, whispers to Kusunoha, scolding her for dragging Liad into their affairs. However, Kusunoki sighs and decides to start over. He tells them he will be waiting at the Beast Empire dorm after classes today. He challenges Liad to come negotiate for Kuzunoha's hand and instructs him to bring Bastet along. He warns them to sharpen their claws before disappearing. Yuyuka overhears everything and is horrified. She wonders what is going on, questioning if Guardian Vance is dating the Beast Princess. She reasons that, as a knight and a gentleman, there is no way he would lay hands on a little girl. She concludes he is definitely just being dragged into other people's problems. Believing she is the only person who understands him in this era, she resolves to save him by getting in the way. She wipes her tears as she plots. Meanwhile, the Beast Princesses are relieved they managed to get rid of their father for now. Rukin shouts at Kuzunoha, asking what the hell is going on. She explains that her father suddenly sprung marriage on her, so of course she reacted like that. Rukin argues it was still reckless. Liad falls into thought. He recalls that Arsmaria never accepted any of her marriage proposals either. He remembers a scene where she complained about how tiring it was to reject suitors she had never met. She had once jokingly suggested that perhaps the two of them should put on a show for them, a fake romance to deter others. Remembering that now, Liad thinks that if he had agreed back then, he would never have been able to enter her room again due to the scandal. Realizing he has been completely swept away in the flow of things, Liad tries to object. Kuzunoha insists that since it happened, it doesn't matter what anyone says. She grabs him and starts running. Later, during the second period, Magical Wisdom Medicine, the teacher explains how to handle water beasts. Since they don't have bones and their bodies are maintained by mana, they are incredibly sensitive. Their cores have extremely low temperatures, so students must be careful not to burn them. Liad holds a water beast, worrying about the impending audience with the Beast Emperor. He wonders how he is supposed to approach this. From behind, Kuzunoha approaches, suggesting they work together. Liad is confused. She whispers that she wants to lay the foundation for their fake relationship case here in class. As they lean in close, Yuyuka suddenly appears between them, pushing them apart. She scolds them, stating that having private conversations during class is against the rules. Kuzunoha points out that Yuyuka isn't even in charge of this course. Yuyuka claims she sent someone acting out of line with public morality and had to correct them. She turns to Liad, noting he seems troubled. She offers to hear him out and invites him to come to her lab after school. Kuzunoha immediately shuts it down, stating it isn't happening because Liad needs to meet her father after school. A crowd grows behind them. Yuzuriha comments that this is what happens when you don't pay proper attention. Kanan asks what is going on. Yuzuriha apologizes, realizing she forgot to explain the situation to Liad's sister. During the third period, Classical Heavenly Language, the chaos continues. Yuyuka, Kuzunoha, and Liad are all there. Kuzunoha reminds Liad of his promise to be her pretend boyfriend. Yuyuka counters, insisting he shouldn't go to the Beast Empire but should stay at the academy forever to be her guinea pig, or rather help with her research. The actual teacher looks at them, noting a bunch of strangers have suddenly showed up in his class. Rukin apologizes, promising to have them leave immediately. Liad thinks this is bad. He wants to come up with an alternative plan and convince Kuzunoha to swap to it, but he is trapped. On one side, Kuzunoha is clinging to his arm. On the other, Yuyuka is pulling him. Kuzunoha wonders why she is so stubborn. She asks aloud what Yuyuka is to Liad anyway, telling the professor there is no need to be so serious. Yuyuka replies intensely. She declares she has been serious ever since coming to this academy. She abandoned everything to come here, yet received no proper recognition. The fact that an unexplored domain existed, referring to Liad's magic, is the only thing that affirms the decisions she has made in life. She claims it is the only thing in this world that seems to understand her. She has been waiting forever for the person that will change her dull world. She tells Kuzunoha that if the princess isn't serious enough to stake her entire life on him, then she refuses to hand him over. Suddenly, something starts falling toward Yuyuka. To protect her, Liad instantly forms a shield behind her. In the process, they get extremely close. Yuyuka realizes she is being enveloped in Guardian Vance's magic. She thinks, oh crap, I gotta see his magic in person. Liad steps back, apologizing for the proximity. Yuyuka, completely overwhelmed and flushed, says she needs a moment to recover and runs off. Kuzunoha watches the entire interaction quietly, noting the intensity of the professor's feelings. Afterward, Miria heads to the academy library and the special academy reference room. She is searching for books related to a specific researcher. Holding one book, she thinks that, as she suspected, the researcher's major field is domains and she is a former student. She reflects on her investigation. She has already investigated the suspect's alibi on the day of the entrance examination. Raksha has been investigating from a different angle, the enemy perspective, and yesterday handed her a list of those expelled from the Ogre Empire's spy network, the Dodomeki. Comparing the overlapping names with the list of graduates, one match stands out. The indigo color of her magic also matches the darkness residue left on Liad's uniform. Miria concludes there is no other way to explain it. Everything points to Yuyuka. However, she wonders why the professor is targeting the princesses and why Liad is constantly dragged into each incident. Just then, a young boy approaches her, greeting her. Muria is startled, noting that this area is restricted to faculty. The boy smiles, asking if Professor Muria is in need of assistance. When she doesn't answer immediately, he floors her by introducing himself as Lancefald, the sixth dean of the World Academy. She gasps, apologizing for not realizing who he was. She admits she cannot believe he is really the same age as her children. Dean becomes excited, realizing she is the guardian of the fabled God Thier guardian. He gushes about Leod, stating he has heard so much about him already, and calls him one of their most promising new students. He adds that he cannot believe someone has achieved what the boy has. Mayuria humbly replies that it is an honor to receive such praise. Dean continues to rave that there is truly no precedent, but then catches himself. He apologizes for getting carried away, admitting that for some reason he feels at ease when he is with her. Muria blushes but smiles. Internally, she analyzes him. Although he sits in the seat of the dean, he is still a child. However, she notes he is completely blocking out her charm magic. She struggles to put it into words, but his friendliness feels artificial, kind of like how she used to be in the past. Dean then asks what brings her to the library. Muria decides to trust him. She reveals that there is something she needs to bring to his attention. Someone is targeting the princesses, and they have already caused one incident after another. He acts shocked, asking who could be responsible for such a thing. She reveals her conclusion, stating she believes it is likely Professor Yuyuka, the head of the research department in charge of domain magic. Dean shouts in disbelief. He calls Yuyuka an incredibly capable researcher who is passionate about her work. He claims he cannot believe she is acting in such an unfair way while he was occupied. He bows, apologizing on her behalf, stating it is the duty of the dean to ensure the safety of his students. However, he assures her this will be fine now. He declares that the execution department will take responsibility and deal with all potential threats to the academy, telling her to be at ease. He orders his assistant Kwan to handle it. Kwan nods. Dean thanks Mayuria for her assistance, lamenting that he cannot believe something like this occurred during his generation. He praises her as being like a goddess. For a moment, Muria feels something is off. Earlier, it felt like, but Dean cuts off her thought, telling her she must be worried about her kids and encouraging her to go to them. She agrees, thanking him for being so considerate. As she leaves, he calls out that he would love to talk more next time and asks her to bring the God Thier guardian along. Once she is gone, Dean's expression shifts, revealing he is the true mastermind behind the attacks on the princesses. He wonders just how much she has figured out. He admits that he found some of Yuyuka's recent actions unacceptable. He isn't surprised Muria managed to figure out it was her. He calls Yuyuka a fool, unsure if her behavior stems from true love, infatuation, or lust, but noting she is far too attached. He decides that if she continues to lose control like that, he will not be able to handle her. He concludes that now is a good time to cut ties. He has already obtained the critical information he needed from her work, so he doesn't need her anymore. Afterward, in a room, Yuyuka is confronted by Kwan. The assistant informs her that her recent actions have led the substitute teacher to trace the incidents back to her. Kwan states it won't be long before she is captured. However, by the benevolence of the dean, he has provided a way out that won't harm her career. It requires that she immediately leave the academy. Kwan adds that her things have already been packed. Yuyuka realizes what is happening. She thinks that this is what they call cutting off the lizard's tail. She admits to herself she might have been having a little too much fun recently and went overboard. She realizes Dean intends to take Guardian Vance away from her too. She extends her hand, raising Kwan's chin. She warns him that he is playing a dangerous game. She confirms that he doesn't want to make a big deal out of this, smiling menacingly as she declares she will make sure to blow things up. After the chaotic interruption, Yuzuriha, the younger beast princess, explains the situation to Kanon. Kanon summarizes her understanding. The beast emperor wants Kuzunoha to return home and marry someone to secure a political alliance. Kuzunoha refused and is currently pretending to date Leod to stall for time. Yuzuriha confirms this. She admits the plan is ridiculous, but thought that as long as Leod agreed to go along with it, the two sisters could stay at the academy, their getaway, a little longer. Kanon asks what happens afterward, noting they can't keep pretending forever. Yuzuriha sadly agrees. She explains that Kuzunoha will never admit it herself, but she is the only one with the right to become emperor. When that happens, Yuzuriha will have no choice but to watch her sister from afar. However, as long as they are both at this academy, they can stand shoulder to shoulder as equals. She wants things to stay the way they are, at least for now. Meanwhile, in Classroom 7, Liad and Kuzunoha are finally alone after Yuyuka's departure. He tells the princess that he doesn't think it is realistic to deal with this situation by having him pretend to be her boyfriend. He asks why she doesn't just directly refuse the engagement. Kuzunoha explains that she cannot. Her engagement is an excuse for a national gathering. The Beast Empire was in a constant state of civil war between 100 clans. Recently, the Lion Clan finally resisted the Cat Clan, reaching a point where an official treaty is possible. A successor is a useful tool to improve unity among the clans. Liad argues that is all the more reason for her to take action. Kuzunoha reveals the trap. If she insists on refusing, they might respect her wish, but they would immediately move to the younger sister. Yuzuriha does not have the political ability to refuse them. Since Kuzunoha's decisions are treated as official announcements, directly confronting the issue would finalize the outcome. By acting jumpy and avoiding the issue, she is kicking the can down the road to protect her sister and maintain the status quo. She admits she doesn't want to change anything, including who she is. Liad analyzes her character. He hadn't seen this side of her before due to how approachable she is, but she clearly understands her burden as a successor. However, she mentally refuses to face it. He realizes that the reason the sisters seem to have so much fun at school is that, away from the Beast Empire, they can maintain a relationship as equals. Kuzunoha smiles at him, admitting she really enjoys being here because she can be the version of herself that she likes. Hiding behind a pillar, Rukin listens to everything. Liad thinks that even if she knows the correct logical choice, it doesn't change what is in her heart. She is a successor to the throne who desires the freedom of an individual. He recalls seeing such desires before in Ars Meria. He thinks that all things change with time. However, his desire to help others has not changed since the moment he decided to be a guardian 1,000 years ago. His thoughts are cut off as they hear a noise. They dash toward the sound, and Liad is amazed by what he sees. Meanwhile, outside, Muria meets Bastet. The King of Cats asks what brings her there. She explains that Liad and Kanan haven't returned to the dorms, and she has something important to tell her son. Bastet hasn't seen them either. He tells her to get on his back, offering to help her look for them to repay the debt he owes her family. They fly off together. In the administration office, Quan approaches Dean. The dean asks if Yuyuka left without causing a ruckus. Quan doesn't answer. Instead, she moves toward him, extending her hand and robotically reciting commands to access the academy's infrastructure, change privileges, revise the defense system, and activate a program. Dean grabs her, shouting and asking what she is doing, but she glares at him menacingly. He realizes she is under hypnosis. Yuyuka had slid a dormant spell into the root of the system through Quan while she worked there. Dean sighs, annoyed. He thinks that he tried to protect Yuyuka's honor and career, questioning why a smart scientist would act so stupid. However, he decides this works out. Things can still be fixed via another route. Now he has a legitimate excuse to chase out the madwoman, and he gets to see how the God-tier guardian responds to a crisis. Back with Liad, he forms a barrier against a sudden barrage of attacks. Massive stones and debris rain down. Kuzunoha shouts, asking what is going on. Liad doesn't know, but he recognizes the attackers. Automata, parts of the school's security system, are leaping from the structures above. Countless armed machines surround them. Hovering above the chaos, Yuyuka giggles, orchestrating the attack. As the guards stand ominously in front of them, Liad thinks that these automata are meant to protect the students, so he wonders why they are currently attacking. He uses Guardian Art's second form to disperse the attackers. Suddenly, all of them begin to levitate in the air, stopping completely. Kuzunoha is amazed, but Liad explains they were being controlled remotely, so he cut off their mana using telekinesis. Suddenly, Kanan contacts him telepathically, asking if he is okay. She informs him that the automata have gone crazy all across the school, and the teachers have ordered an immediate evacuation. She urges him to hurry to where she is. Liad realizes the situation has accelerated faster than he thought. In fact, it is true. Automata across the school are groping the princesses. Ericiel, the holy princess, complains that interrupting her prayer is unforgivable. Meanwhile, Suzeri tries to keep her group calm, instructing everyone to stick together. Liad thinks that the scale of this incident is too large to deal with individually. Kuzunoha warns him that the enemy numbers have increased again. He uses Guardian Art First Form to bind the automata together, confirming his suspicion that their mana wires are all connected. He tells the princess that taking out the source will stop them all. However, he admits this is the limit of what he can analyze with his technique Vadachi, and he is torn because he cannot leave Kanan alone at the shelter. Kuzunoha shouts for Rukin, knowing he is nearby. The guard appears from behind a pillar, declaring he is there to protect the successor to the throne, and cannot leave her side in this dangerous situation. Kuzunoha orders him to kneel. Rukin obeys, stating that following her orders is his duty. She then commands him, declaring that as the next in line to the throne, she orders him to protect Yuzuriha and Kanon while she helps Leod. Rukin looks up smiling. He says, "As you command," and runs off, leaving the princess in Leod's hands. Leod thanks him. Afterward, Kuzunoha summons her magical beast, Sharky. The massive shark appears, and she claims he has a really good nose for tracking. They climb onto the beast and fly off toward the source of the disturbance. Leod vows to catch the perpetrator this time. Meanwhile, in the sky, Miria and Bastet are also in pursuit. She orders the cat to follow them, but the shark is surprisingly fast. Miria wonders if Yuyuka is really after the princesses or something else, questioning where she is leading the two of them. Below, the beast Emperor Kusunoki notices the commotion. His attendants suggest the princesses might be in danger due to a facility malfunction and offer to search for them. Kusunoki looks up, spotting Bastet flying above. He decides to follow His Excellency, moving from his throne with a rare energy, stating they must go pay respects to the true master of their country. The shark flies toward a familiar location. Leod realizes this is the same place Hiyori was taken during the entrance exam. He sees it as a deliberate provocation. They jump down and Leod senses something odd. The flow of mana is stagnant. Kuzunoha remarks that the smell is sweet, like poison. There is no doubt they are here. Leod tells her to stay behind him. He thinks that the cause of everything lies just ahead, and he needs to put an end to it to protect their school life. Suddenly, a laughing voice echoes. Yuyuka appears in front of them with teary eyes, saying that, as she thought, he really came for her. Leod is amazed to see the professor. Floating above them, she says she has been waiting and waiting for him all this time, addressing him as Sir Vance. Hearing that name raises Leod's eyebrows instantly. Yuyuka confesses that she wanted to be sure he noticed her, which is why she attacked the entire school. She says she is glad she did and knew he would come there. Leod is astounded, realizing she is behind everything. More importantly, he wonders why she knows his name, as he never told anyone about his past life. She continues, understanding his confusion. She admits she would have preferred to talk things through more leisurely. He asks why she has been attacking the princesses. She thinks for a moment before answering that it was in order to find him, to meet with him, to confirm who he is, and to help him reclaim himself. She claims everything she has done up till now has all been for his sake. She explains she had the princesses assist her in that task, noting that anyone would have worked depending on the circumstances. She thanks them for allowing her to see his domain art with her own eyes. Leod realizes she dragged in and hurt so many people just to make him use his magic. He concludes she must have been researching the greatest magical accomplishment in the world, the anti-war domain. He reasons that since his magic is based on Arsmeria's, that is how she figured out his past life. Yuyuka asks if he has finally realized how hard she has been working for him. Kuzunoha, listening to the conversation, is confused, not understanding a single word they are discussing. She wonders why Yuyuka called Leod by a different name, Vance, which she has never heard of. Yuyuka starts crying, wiping her tears as she speaks to Leod. She apologizes, saying he must have been so lonely till now, all alone in a world that had completely changed. She assures him it will be okay now, claiming she is the one and only person who understands him. She invites him to come with her, to head to an entirely new domain. She holds his hand, asking him to show her all of his wonderful power. Leod pulls away, stating firmly that he is not going anywhere with her. He tells her she doesn't understand a thing. He declares his current role is to protect Kanon and the princesses here at this academy. He vows he will not allow her to hurt anyone else and will put an end to this madness right now. Yuyuka laughs menacingly. She declares she is not asking Leod, but stating that the one she is going to leave with is Vance. She uses her magic to bind both his hands. Leod thinks, realizing he got distracted by all the stuff about his past and his mana is flowing out. She puts a hand on his shoulder, saying that in order to remind Sir Vance of the day he was a knight, she is going to destroy Leod until not a shred of him remains. She tells him his consciousness is just getting in the way and to just let go. Suddenly, something attacks Yuyuka, forcing her away from him. It is Sharky, Kuzunoha's magical beast. Yuyuka sneers, asking if she was still there. Kuzunoha shouts at her to let go of him, stating she is hurting him. She asks why Yuyuka is doing something so cruel when she thought the professor loved him. Yuyuka sighs, telling her she doesn't understand a thing. Kuzunoha admits she is right and doesn't understand a thing. She confesses she has been completely lost since the moment they got there. However, she states she cannot just abandon someone suffering in front of her very eyes. Yuyuka laughs, beginning to bind the princess with magic. She tells Kuzunoha not to make her laugh, declaring she hates brainless kids like her who have never had to suffer anything or worry about consequences. She accuses the princess of stumbling around without making a single real decision in her life. Yuyuka claims her resolve and Kuzunoha's are in entirely different dimensions, stating this is all she has left and she cannot turn back anymore. Kuzunoha thinks that Yuyuka is someone who has already decided how to live her life, while she is still afraid of change, establishing her individuality and coming to terms with her feelings. She admits she has always been afraid, but realizes right now she is there by herself. She decides she has to face this and win as just Kuzunoha. Yuyuka declares she will be taking Lyod back. Kuzunoha stands firm, shouting that she doesn't want to see Lyod get hurt, and school won't be fun if he isn't there. She declares that is why she has decided she is going to fight for her own selfish desires. Seeing Lyod in distress, Kuzunoha shouts that she is coming. She summons her magic beast, an elephant, a tiger, a bull, and a rhino, and commands them to attack Yuyuka. Yuyuka clenches her teeth, scoffing that flimsy beasts like those will vanish with a wave of her hand. She claims that no matter how many the princess frantically summons, it won't make a difference. With a swipe of her hand, she waves them off. However, she suddenly realizes the princess wasn't trying to attack her to begin with. She looks behind her and sees Kuzunoha charging toward Lyod, shouting that she is going to free him right now. Just in time, Yuyuka flies higher, shouting that she is not letting her have him. Absolutely not. Despite this, Kuzunoha continues to fight. Lyod marvels at how she summons and commands spirits one after another. Outside the castle, Mayuria and Bastet arrive at the scene, witnessing the battle. Below them, Kanon, Rukin, and the other princesses watch everything unfold. Yusuriha spots her sister in the sky. The Beast Emperor Kusunoki looks up and remarks, asking if she has already finished hunting her prey. He notes all that's left is to finish the job by taking down the cornered animals. Yuyuka commands the automata dummies to attack Kusunoha. Lyod notices she is surrounded, but the princess doesn't stop. However, instead of attacking her directly, the automata target the magic beast she is riding. As the creature vanishes, Kusunoha starts falling. The automata catch her in midair. Yuyuka sneers, saying maybe she should have let her fall, but rather than give her the opportunity to play more tricks, it's better to finish her off properly. Lyod thinks this is bad. Down below, the guards realize there are too many enemies and they are too far away for their attacks to reach. Kusunoki steps forward, declaring that isn't true. His voice should reach. His daughters warn him that there are many people here not from the Beast Empire, urging him to maintain his composure as a country leader. He shouts back that he knows, but while he may be the Beast Emperor, he is also her father. He roars so loud that everyone instinctively covers their ears. Yuyuka shouts in pain from the sound pressure. Kuzunoha realizes it is her father's roar. Even the automata start to glitch. Yuyuka panics, wondering why the machines are malfunctioning and realizing their mana is overloading. She feels pain as well. Meanwhile, Kuzunoha thinks that she doesn't really know why, but for some reason, this voice resonates with her heart and gives her strength. Lyod is confused. The mana in the air has grown in strength and started to go berserk. Although his own mana is being dispersed, he can feel it beginning to grow stronger too. He realizes he should be able to break free now. Muria, sitting on Bastet, notes her body feels heavy and asks if the cat is okay. Bastet replies he is fine. In fact, he feels as if shackles have been taken off. He explains this is a move only the Beast Emperor can use, setting true beast wild while intimidating enemies. Both Kusunoki and Kuzunoha use their war cry. As the princess moves forward, she thinks that everyone within range of the roar will have their mana driven to its limit. Most people are unable to control such wild power, but those who follow their natural instincts, like beasts and beast folk, can retain control. Finally, Kuzunoha reaches Lyod. She holds him and together they turn to face Yuyuka, who is still covering her ears in pain. Yuyuka looks at them with despair. She says she finally found him, and if she cannot have him no matter what, then there is no more meaning in her life. Something seems to break within her. She stops levitating and starts falling from the sky. Liad thinks this is bad. She no longer has the will to fight, and worse, she is giving up on herself. He reasons that while her crimes cannot be forgiven, he has to save her right now. He uses circular shield to form a platform underneath her, but it cracks instantly and she continues falling. He is shocked that his guardian art didn't work. Kuzunoha calls for Sharky to catch her. The shark leaps toward Yuyuka but passes right through her. Liad realizes beast spirits are too fragile to stop the impact. He remembers Yuyuka's words telling him not to protect her. Her will is actively pushing away his magic. He realizes guardian arts cannot save someone who doesn't want to be protected. He panics, noting this is a situation he never considered before. He wonders if the anti-war domain, capable of controlling people's actions, could save her, but his version is incomplete. Kuzunoha grabs his hand. She tells him to use her mana. She says if he has a plan, she will help him fight with it, whatever it is. Liad smiles. Channeling her golden mana, he casts a spell to protect the falling professor. An immense light shines. Liad thinks that Kuzunoha's mana matches his perfectly, turning into a two-layer domain tinged in a warm color. The golden mana surges around Yuyuka. She feels it and thinks it is weird, noting it's been long enough that she should have hit the ground by now. She notices her surroundings and remembers this color, the most comfortable and free power in the world. She realizes this is why she was so drawn to it, because she could never acquire it herself. She lands smoothly on the ground. Kuzunoha and Liad land beside her. The princess celebrates their success, calling it amazing. Liad walks toward Yuyuka, but suddenly black strings form around her, binding her. The vice principal, Matilda Lindworm, appears with Quan. She declares they have finally caught the culprit. Matilda apologizes for allowing the students to come into such danger, but thanks them for minimizing the damage. She states they will hold Yuyuka captive and interrogate her before deciding on her punishment. She asks them to refrain from speaking about the event until an official announcement is made. Liad thinks that Professor Yuyuka knows about his past life. There is a lot he wants to ask her. He hopes he will be able to negotiate with the vice principal later. At the very least, he is relieved the incident should come to an end. Suddenly, Kuzunoha shouts that she completely forgot there was something they were supposed to do after class today. She laments that since they didn't show up, it's like they stood him up. She realizes they need to head over to her father immediately to maintain the ruse that she and Liad are lovers. However, she pauses, realizing that earlier her father was already here. Kusunoki approaches them. He looks at his daughter with approval, saying that, as he thought, she does possess the wild strength to push through difficulty and the qualities worthy of an emperor. Kuzunoha is shocked to see him there. Kusunoki commends Kuzunoha, affirming that she has discovered the vital power within herself and is indeed worthy to become the next beast emperor. Yuzuriha rushes to her sister's side, and Kuzunoha quickly reassures her that she is unharmed. Reflecting on the recent battle, Kuzunoha's thoughts drift to Yuyuka. She acknowledges that while the professor's methods were flawed, the resolve and emotion driving her actions were legitimate, the very source of her strength. Kuzunoha addresses her father, declaring her resolve to remain at the academy. She argues that if she remains too weak to fight without his aid, she cannot be a happy leader, and consequently her people will not be happy either. She asserts that when the day comes to celebrate the birth of the new beast empire, the generation responsible for supporting it must bear smiles on their faces. Her words leave Rukin amazed. The moment is interrupted as Bastet and Miuria touch down nearby. Kusunoki lowers himself to kneel before Bastet. The king of cats instructs the emperor to raise his head, stating he has long lost the claim to such status and recognizes Kusunoki as the current ruler. Kusunoki insists that Bastet has always been the true leader of their country, unfettered and free, the very symbol of their empire's ideal. He proclaims that they have re-established order and stand prepared for his return. Bastet counters, asserting that unification does not equate to harmony. He explains that those who live on land, those in the sea, those who feed on plants, and those who devour meat all occupy their own spheres. He warns that if the country remains a place where the strong dominate the weak, the nature of the empire will never change, and the foolish wars of the past are destined to repeat. Kusunoki admits that this unification is indeed the pinnacle of what his generation can accomplish. However, he places his faith in the next generation to break free of old traditions. He believes the next emperor will usher in a new age that respects individualism. Pointing to Kuzunoha, he asks Bastet to watch over her, as she already wields the strength to succeed where he failed. Bastet looks to the sky, agreeing to watch with anticipation as a new wind blows through the land of freedom before taking flight. Kusunoki turns to his daughter, voicing his respect for her decision and her resolve to pursue freedom. He grants her permission to stay at the academy and learn to her heart's desire until the day he officially passes down the mantle. He assures her regarding the engagement, promising to handle the matter himself. The sisters embrace in celebration. Relieved, Lyod kneels before the emperor. Kusunoki addresses him as the friend of our king and apologizes for his previous actions. He admits that his daughter is not someone he can control and entrusts her to Lyod's care. Lyod accepts the responsibility. Kusunoki then remarks that Lyod must be the man Kusunoha cannot bear to part with. Alarmed, Lyod realizes they have yet to clear up the misunderstanding regarding their relationship. He attempts to explain, but Kusunoha cuts him off. She admits that this is the first time she has connected so deeply with someone other than Yuzuriha, noting they definitely share a good affinity. Rukin shouts at her, begging the princess not to complicate matters further. Kusunoha laughs nervously, apologizing and promising to explain properly later. Back at the academy grounds, Lyod assists with the cleanup efforts. The teacher apologizes for requesting his help on a day off, citing the lack of time. Lyod dismisses the concern. As the class representative, such duty is only natural. Nearby, Suzeri confirms that her team has largely finished their tasks, adding that the automaton rampage left damage across the entire campus. Kanan approaches her brother, drawing attention to a scratch on his arm. Before Lyod can react, she heals it instantly. He offers his thanks, and she asserts that accompanying him today was the right decision. She grumbles that Princess Kusunoha stole him away for the entirety of the previous day, necessitating her increased vigilance now. The siblings' arrival breaks the moment as Kusunoha and Yuzuriha appear, offering food as an apology for the trouble caused. Suzeri approaches the group and inquires if something specific happened, pointing out that she did not see Lyod during the disturbance yesterday. The vice principal's order to remain silent regarding the incident surfaces in Lyod's mind. Yet, before he can deflect, Kusunoha blurts out a clumsy excuse, claiming they were speaking to her father about their relationship and engaging in group activities. Suseri is bewildered by the phrasing. Lyod urgently whispers to Kusunoha that they are forbidden to discuss the topic. The princess panics, hastily adding that they joined hands and made their thoughts one. This statement only shocks Suzeri further. Concealed within the nearby bushes, Aurelis, Hiyori, and the other princesses overhear the conversation. Hiyori muses that the rumors spreading among the beast folk regarding Lyod and Kusunoha seem founded in truth. She gleefully observes that a three-way struggle is imminent between Kanon, the beast princess, and the demon princess. Suseri presses further, accusing Kusunoha of hiding something. The beast princess retorts that she is under no obligation to tell Suseri anything she wishes to keep private. Suseri counters that as the class representative, she bears a responsibility to understand the situation among her classmates. Kusunoha insists it is a trivial matter. Suzeri pushes harder, arguing that even if the princess accepts the situation, that does not imply Lyod shares the sentiment. Yuzuriha interjects, teasing Suzeri for going overboard and asking if she is truly that in love with Lyod. Suzeri freezes, stunned. Upon processing the implication, she shouts in denial, claiming the twins are mistaken. Internally, however, panic sets in. She acknowledges her great respect for Lyod but questions if those feelings have evolved beyond simple friendship. Hiyori comments on the budding of an oblivious love, wondering how the situation will develop. Unable to endure the scene any longer, Aurelis bursts out from the bushes. Kusunoha recoils in surprise. The demon princess scoffs, criticizing them for their vivid imaginations and wild speculation without consulting His Excellency for his opinion. She adds that it should have been obvious from the start that Kusunoha is incapable of providing a proper explanation, a remark that offends the beast princess. Aurelis prompts Lyod to clarify. He scratches his face awkwardly, beginning to explain that the relationship was merely a strategy to allow the sisters to remain at school. Kusunoha, fearing he will reveal too much, covers his mouth and claims she is simply poor at explanations. She looks to Yuzuriha and Kanon for support. However, Yuzuriha decides it might be better to let them suffer the consequences of their actions. Kanon agrees, finding herself aligned with the beast princess for once. Lyod looks between them, shocked by their betrayal. Kusunoha starts fake crying, lamenting what they should do about their little sister being so strict. Suzeri immediately latches onto the word our, demanding the meaning behind it. Aurelis declares that no one is leaving until the truth is made clear. Hiyori watches with delight, enjoying the real-life love quarrel. High above in the school building, Dean Camille observes the scene from his office window. His mind replays the recent battle where he watched Kusunoha fight alongside Lyod. He confirms that the magic unleashed there was, without a doubt, the anti-war domain. He recognizes that he has finally located another piece of the Heavenly Emperor. Smirking, he shifts his gaze toward Yuzuriha, pondering if she holds potential as well. Dean Camille rushes to answer a knock at his office door, eager to welcome his guest. However, his excitement fades when he finds Kuon standing there, wearing a stoic expression. She has come to report on the current situation. The former research chief, Yuyuka, is currently in captivity and undergoing interrogation by Vice Principal Matilda. Kuon informs him that Yuyuka remains silent regarding her motives and goals, causing the investigation to hit a dead end. She notes, however, that the prisoner has not leaked any sensitive information regarding the executive department. Dean dismisses the concern with a smile, asserting that those satisfied with the current world are incapable of understanding their department's existence. Kuon notes his elevated mood, and he confesses he is happy because he finally gets to meet the god Thier guardian directly. Meanwhile, Lyod walks through the corridor, tension knotting in his chest regarding the upcoming meeting. Muria walks beside him, assuring her son that the dean specifically expressed a wish to meet him and will surely be delighted by his arrival. Lyod remains anxious, hoping he can live up to the expectations of the famed kaleidoscope prodigy. When Lyod knocks, the door swings open instantly. Dean grabs Lyod's hand, shaking it enthusiastically while introducing himself as Camille. He spins around energetically, thanking Muria for her assistance the other day and calling her a blessing from the gods. Lyod watches the hyperactive display in silence. Dean tells him not to be nervous, pointing out that they are the same age. Lyod agrees politely, though he feels the encounter is somewhat anticlimactic. As they sit down, Dean broaches the topic of the recent incident, acknowledging that while Yuyuka was an incredibly capable teacher, she was professionally problematic. He apologizes for the trouble she caused. However, Lyod barely listens. His attention remains fixed on a glass case in the room containing the very spear he saw in his vision. Freed's spear. Lyod asks about the weapon. Dean glances at it, waving it off as a mere god's presence used for decoration. He complains that Yuyuka took it from his office without permission, grumbling that she really doesn't know how to avoid causing trouble. He explains that the spear belonged to a predecessor, pointing to a large portrait hanging behind him. Lyod looks at the image and freezes. The portrait depicts the first dean of the academy, an older, wrinkled man who Lyod instantly recognizes as Freed. Dean resumes his chatter with Muria, thanking her again for ensuring Yuyuka was caught so easily. Unseen by the mother, he shoots a sly smirk toward Lyod. Lyod walks over to a bookshelf, flipping through a history book. The revelation stuns him. Freed led the academy after the war. The truth hits him that he could have easily learned this, had he not unconsciously avoided the history of the era following his death. He acknowledges that he would have discovered this while searching for traces of Ars Meria, but fear had kept him from looking. Memories resurface of Freed trying to stop him in the past, asking where he was heading and wishing to compete with him. He had believed his own battle ended with the completion of the domain and Ars Meria's passing. A part of him thought he had stopped time, turning those events into beautiful memories. He now sees that he never considered the fate of those left behind. He understands now that Freed persevered for decades in a struggle unrecorded by history, suffering in solitude to protect the Heavenly Empire after losing both his best friend and his master. Lyod finally understands the accusing, cold gaze from the vision of Freed. It is no surprise that his old friend hates him. A sudden presence snaps Lyod from his reverie. He turns to find Yuzuriha standing directly in front of him. Lyod offers an apology to Yuzuriha for the collision. He observes that she is alone. A state she confesses feels strange, given that she is usually joined to her sister for meals, baths, and sleep. She laughs nervously, murmuring that Kuzunoha left her behind during the recent incident. The image of Freed flashes through Lyod's mind. He comforts the princess, insisting that Kuzunoha cares for her more deeply than anyone. He clarifies that the older twin only left her behind because Yuzuriha had already evacuated safely. Kuzunoha faced her responsibilities specifically to ensure the two of them could remain at the academy together. Lyod voices his heartfelt hope that their bond remains unshaken. Yuzuriha smiles, thanking him for the reassurance. However, as Lyod departs, a heavy weight settles in his chest. He acknowledges that while he offered comfort, he remains a person who abandoned someone in the past, and he questions what he can actually do to aid them. Later, Lyod meets Bastet for training. The King of Cats announces that this will be their final bout and instructs Lyod not to hold back. Lyod confesses he feels lonely regarding the departure. Bastet explains that his return to the Beast Empire is unavoidable. By appearing at the ceremony personally, he can resolve the political friction that would have forced Kuzunoha to return. He adds that the Golden Lion Princess saved his friend's life, so he claims this victory as a souvenir for his household. Bastet leaps forward to attack. Lyod vaults high, deploying Guardian Wall Fortress to entrap the beast in a cylindrical barrier. Shock colors Bastet's expression. He sees that Lyod has twisted a defensive spell into a cage. He recognizes that the boy developed this method to contain enemies without harming them. a testament to his desire to protect others even when his standard arts fail. Bastet assures Lyod that he will be fine even after the cat is gone. Lyod collapses onto Bastet's fur, voicing his disagreement. He admits he has felt powerless recently and fears the loss of his sparring partner. Bastet gently counters that a lack of training is not the true issue he faces. Bastet asks Lyod if he considers the cat a friend or merely a sparring partner. Lyod denies using him just for training. Bastet observes that Lyod always draws a line to prevent others from getting too close, fearing he will have no one to show his weak side to once the cat leaves. Bastet advises him not to shoulder too much alone. Lyod opens up, confessing that he feels he must be alone because he left someone behind in the past. Thinking of Fried, he believes he does not deserve understanding and will never be able to create that sort of friendship again. Bastet remains silent for a moment before asking if full understanding is necessary to become friends. He argues that he and Lyod barely know anything about each other, yet as long as two individuals spend time together and think of one another, bonds will form. He points out that the Golden Lion Princess saved Lyod because of those very feelings. Reflecting on this, the truth dawns on Lyod. While his primary goal has always been protecting others, the princesses have saved him in return, when darkness threatened to consume him and when he was captured. He understands that by combining their strengths, he might finally achieve his ideal of protecting everything. Bastet admits that despite being a loner who never formed a flock, meeting Lyod in the forest made him think having a friend wasn't so bad. Lyod smiles, glad to have met him. Bastet expresses his anticipation for the day they meet again. Emerging from the memory, Lyod steals his resolve. He decides to believe in his friends and combine their strengths, internally asking Fried for forgiveness as he finally moves forward. Seeking counsel on the twins' predicament, Lyod gathers the princesses. Aurelis accepts the consultation as an honor while Suseri eagerly pledges her assistance. Lyod explains that although Kuzunoha and Yuzuriha secured their place at the academy, the younger twin appears despondent. Kanan points out that their personal crisis overlapped with the school incident, severing them both physically and emotionally. Hayori adds that the fake dating scheme likely exacerbated the issue, leaving Yuzuriha to feel abandoned during the evacuation while Lyod and Kuzunoha were together. Suziri defends Kuzunoha's judgment, asserting that her decision-making during the crisis proved her aptitude as a successor. Arisiel raises a hand suggesting they manufacture an opportunity for the sisters to talk. She cites the Academy's history as a sanctuary for reconciliation, arguing that clarifying their stances should resolve the misunderstanding. Aurelis immediately shoots down the idea. She contends that Kuzunoha is utterly incapable of proper explanation, rendering the plan impractical despite its theoretical merit. Arisiel retorts that she at least offered a solution, unlike someone who only knows how to disparage others. Aurelis gapes at the retort. Arisiel coolly replies that the Holy Empire values wisdom, noting her difficulty in understanding why Aurelis always finds fault. As the bickering intensifies, Runia interrupts. The Dragon Princess stares at them intensely, demanding to know why they stopped. She complains that things were just getting interesting, and she was on the verge of grasping something. Aurelis denies putting on a show, and Arisiel apologizes for derailing the conversation. Lyod steps in, validating both their opinions. He agrees that the twins need to speak to resolve the misunderstanding, but since Kuzunoha struggles with verbalizing her thoughts, they require an activity that bridges conversation with action. Susiri suggests playing a game, noting that the twins are proactive and enjoy such activities. Hayori asks if there is a specific party game suitable for the situation. Uraha, Susiri's attendant, laughs and interjects, proposing the Heavenly Imperial game. She outlines the mechanics. Players draw lots, and the holder of the rainbow stick ascends as the Heavenly Imperial. The Imperial issues a command to a specific color. However, bound by the Heavenly Contract, the person holding that color gains the right to request the Heavenly Imperial to perform the same action. Since the Imperial remains ignorant of who holds which color, the outcome is unpredictable. Uraha describes it as a heart-throbbing game perfect for bridging gaps between people, hinting that romantic accidents occur frequently. Suzire worries that such a game might be disrespectful to the title of Imperial, but Hayori deems it an idea worth trying. Lyod reminds everyone that the primary goal is to repair the sisters' relationship. Aurelis raises a valid concern. The twins possess sharp instincts and might become suspicious if the group suddenly suggests a game without a proper pretext. Lyod offers a compromise, frame the event as a class party and enlist the twins' help from the planning stage. While the game will provide the opportunity to talk, he admits he genuinely wants everyone to enjoy the gathering. He expresses a sincere desire to form closer bonds with his classmates. His honest vulnerability catches the princesses off guard. Aurelis smiles, declaring she cannot hold back if that is the case. Hayori and Suziri agree enthusiastically. Arisiel calls for preparations to begin. Lyode looks to Rhaenyra for her answer. The Dragon Princess smiles, stating she also desires to know him better. When the group approaches the Beast Princesses about the party, Kuzunoha attempts to act excited, suggesting they prepare pranks. However, Yuzuriha responds quietly, and the distance between the sisters remains palpable. The class works together to prepare the food and decorations. Once everything is ready, Uraha cheers, declaring the start of the special class party. The party begins with a mix of happiness and sadness, as the twins know their time at the academy is paused. Kanan brings out a tray of sweets to cheer everyone up. Susiri is impressed by Kanan's cooking skills, while Hayori loves how cute the candy looks. The Beast Princesses explain that these are stylish magic, treats that change hairstyles, promising the effects will wear off by the end of the party. However, Aurelis and Erisiel laugh at the simple tricks and eat specific cookies. To everyone's shock, the magic does the opposite of what was intended. Instead of changing hair, it shrinks the demon and holy princesses into small children. Leo tries to hide his fatherly instincts as the toddler-sized princesses run to hide behind him. Kanan points out a big problem. These two were supposed to start the heavenly imperial game to fix the twins' relationship. Now that they are unpredictable kids, the plan is at risk. Tiny Erisiel starts floating away, ignoring all rules. Lyode sees they need a babysitter. He asks Kuzunoha and Yuzuriha to watch the kids while the rest play the game. The Beast Princesses agree. Uraha starts the heavenly imperial game, handing out magic tools that pick random colors. She reminds everyone to keep their color hidden. Hayori draws the first rainbow lot and becomes the heavenly imperial. Lyode hopes she sets a serious mood, but Hayori ruins that hope. She mischievously orders the blue and purple players to swap clothes. Lyode looks at the lot in his hand. He is one of the targets. The other is Rhaenyra. Lyode hesitates, noticing her armor looks hard to take off. The Dragon Princess explains she creates the armor with her own magic and can remove it easily. She starts undressing right in the middle of the room. Lyode stops her immediately, insisting they go to a separate room to change. When they return, Lyode is wearing Rhaenyra's full armor. Susiri blushes, thinking he looks like a knight from a fairy tale. Rhaenyra, on the other hand, is wearing Lyode's shirt. She complains that even though they are the same height, the shirt is tight on her chest, so she refuses to button it all the way up. Uraha draws the next rainbow lot. She orders the red player to confess their true feelings to the blue player. The lots belong to the child versions of Aurelis and Erisiel. Kuzunoha encourages little Aurelis to speak. The child demon princess hesitates before shyly asking Erisiel to be her friend. The child holy princess smiles and agrees. The two fly off together to play. Yuzuriha watches them, amazed. She wonders how they became such complicated rivals when things were so simple when they were younger. Using this chance, the group turns their attention to the twins. They suggest that Kuzunoha should also confess something to Yuzuriha. The older twin freezes, realizing she is on the spot. Kuzunoha freezes, understanding that it is her turn to confess to Yuzuriha. Lyode watches, seeing that Uraha created the perfect chance for them to talk. But Yuzuriha stops the game before it starts. She insists they never had a proper talk about what happened that day. Kuzunoha asks what she means. Yuzuriha guesses the topic immediately. She assumes Kuzunoha is apologizing for leaving her behind during the evacuation, and assures her sister it wasn't her fault since they were split from the beginning. Kuzunoha shakes her head. She makes it clear she isn't talking about the evacuation. She is talking about the day she decided to become the Imperial all on her own. Shock covers Yuzuriha's face. The room fades away as a memory from their childhood takes over. Young Kuzunoha cries in a tree after a meeting with other tribes. Yuzuriha finds her, complaining that studying is boring and suggesting they just ignore what the adults say. She proposes that they can just be who they want to be together. Young Kuzunoha's eyes shine, agreeing with her smart sister. As the memory ends, Lyode looks at Kuzunoha. He wonders if she knew she was breaking their long-held equality by moving forward alone. He asks himself if she knew she was ignoring how Yuzuriha might feel. Kuzunoha tells her sister that she doesn't want to run away anymore. She explains that she wants them to be together, even if they aren't the same. Yuzuriha asks if that means they don't have to pretend anymore. Kuzunoha answers that because they are different, they can stand back to back and teach each other the different things they see. By facing one another, they can draw closer and hold hands. The sisters smile and hold hands. Lyode breathes a sigh of relief, thankful that it worked. Uraha pats herself on the back for doing a good job, but the Beast Princesses narrow their eyes. They smell a trap and activate the heavenly contract to reverse the order onto the sender. Uraha panics as they point out that Susiri was the one who pulled the heavenly imperial lot, or was mixed up in the confusion, so the human princess must make a confession. Susiri screams in embarrassment. Without warning, the child versions of Aurelis and Erisiel drop from the ceiling as the cookie magic wears off, returning them to normal. The game ends in chaos. Amidst the noise, Rhaenyra watches Lyode. She thinks that he has gained something new once again and decides she will find out what it is. Later that night, at the Beast Princess Palace Annex in the Noble District, Yuzuriha sits alone on a pillar. She thinks about her sister's words about wanting to be together. While she admits she was happy to hear them, she thinks it doesn't change the fact that she has been left behind. The silence breaks as Dean Camille appears. He notes she looks down and suggests an after-party. Yuzuriha recognizes him, asking, "You again?" Dean asks if she has thought about their last discussion. He offers her a place in a special organization that will allow her to be her clever self without having to step aside for anyone else. Yuzuriha, feeling the pain of inferiority and abandonment, agrees. She states that she needs to take a step forward herself too. Dean smiles, welcoming her to the executive department, having successfully trapped the lonely princess. Days earlier, Dean Camille overhears the princesses talking about the class party. He is amazed that the god Thier guardian is hosting an event. He is impressed by how active Liad is with other students. He feels sure Liad has finally taken real steps to search for the Heavenly Emperor. Back in his office, Dean asks Kuan if showing Liad the portrait worked. Kuan has doubts, but Dean ignores her. He opens his calendar to check the date of the event. He is shocked to see it falls on the same day as his birthday. He connects the dots instantly. Liad is throwing him a surprise party. Impressed by such a smart plan, he decides it would be rude to ask directly and ruin the surprise. He waits for the event with excitement. The day arrives. Dean waits in his room, fully prepared. But time passes. No one comes to get him. Even Kuan just says good day and leaves. The truth hits him. He was not invited. He trembles, wiping away a tear. To hide the pain of rejection, he forces a creepy laugh. His face twists into an evil look. He declares that his plans are moving forward anyway. With that, he heads out to find Yuzuriha, ready to make his move on the younger twin. Later, Liad sits by the lake in the Forest District Free Zone. Kanan dozes on a nearby stone but jumps awake when he speaks. She insists she isn't sleepy at all. She claims she wants to train, aiming to do everything she can to help him now that Basta is gone. Liad thanks her for the support but asks her to close her eyes as he plans to swim in the lake. Kanan obeys, thinking she can proudly tell Basta she is doing her best on her own. However, just as Liad gets ready to enter the water, Runia rises from the lake. Liad quickly spins around, apologizing and explaining he thought no one else was there. Suddenly, Hyadora, the dragon princess's guardian, appears behind him. She teases that she is there too. She explains that while the princess would be fine alone, she watches over Runia out of love. Flustered by their lack of clothing, Liad begs them to put something on. Using magic, the dragon girls instantly wrap themselves in clothes. Liad wonders if dragons just have a totally different kind of common sense. Hyadora laughs at his panicked reaction. Runia says she came here specifically to meet him. She invites Liad to come to her dorm that night. The request shocks everyone, especially Kanan, who shouts in protest. Liad tries to calm his sister. Runia asks if she said something strange. She explains that just as the Beast twins recently spoke and cleared up their doubts, she wishes to do the same. Liad thinks to himself that this is the first time the dragon princess has approached him directly. Wanting to stay on good terms, he agrees. Kanan refuses to let him go alone, insisting on joining them. Runia agrees to let his sister come. Later that night at the Dragon Palace in the Noble District, Liad and Kanan stand before an open area. Liad recognizes the fortress-style common to the Dragon Empire. Runia appears, explaining that the palace is underwater and uses her magic to open a path. As they go down, Kanan whispers to her brother to stop staring. Liad whispers back, pointing out that the princess just looks different from usual. Inside, they sit at a long table. Liad tries to read Runia's intentions but finds it hard, remembering that stronger dragons often show weaker emotions. He decides to get straight to the point. Runia reveals she wants to understand his strength. She sees that Liad is constantly holding back his mana. She notes that controlling such huge power inside a human body is hard. She points to Hyori, whose body broke because she couldn't control her power, and Ariciel, who binds her holiness with strict rules. She continues, explaining that dragons followed the Heavenly Emperor because they respected the strength of the anti-war domain, a power that isolates people. However, she points out that Liad's power is different. It draws people in and brings them closer. Runia admits that although dragons who live in battle are supposed to be heartless, her heart moves whenever she watches him fight. Desperate to understand this feeling, she challenges him to a battle. Kanan argues that dragons should be able to measure strength without fighting. Runia explains that she does not care about winning or personal hate like Aurelis, nor is she obsessed with self-improvement like Suziri. She simply wants to feel his strength. Understanding what she wants, Liad stands up and accepts the challenge. Runia leads Liad to a room filled with water. She explains they will fight using phantom bodies, just like in the entrance exam. She floats into the air and controls the water, saying she wants to understand him through battle. Lyod wonders if fighting will help him understand her, too. Without warning, a volcanic landscape appears around Lyod. He knows this place. It is an old dragon imperial fortress, a battlefield from 1,000 years ago. Runia says she won't use tricks. A single strike will be the answer. She raises her hand, turning the water into flaming meteors and shooting them at him. Lyod sees the attacks are made of volcanic stone and hot dragon fire. Even with such a strong attack, she keeps her phantom body stable effortlessly. Lyod blocks the attack using Guardian Wall Fortress, making a barrier to catch the meteors. Runia watches him. She notices he chose to defend and hold the blast instead of attacking first. She asks why his magic is only for taking hits. She wonders if he fights this way to protect his sister, even here. Wanting to see the source of his power, Runia says she will attack head-on without holding back. She warns him he won't be able to relax much longer, telling him not to hold back like he did with Aurelis and Caesari. Lyod knows she is strong. Dragons were top fighters even 1,000 years ago, and she is the strongest princess. He hopes that if this battle is a kind of conversation, he might finally explain himself and understand her feelings in return. Runia shapes water into dragons filled with her power and launches them at him. Lyod uses Guardian Art First Form, Zenki. Reading the path of her energy through the flames, he decides to move. He uses Reversal, sending her own attack right back at her. Runia sees that he didn't just reverse her magic. He mixed in his Guardian Art, stopping her from taking control or breaking it. The water and magic bind her, making her crown fall off. She demands to know why he fights like this when she asked for a real fight. Lyod answers that he fights to protect what is precious to him. He explains that he wants strength so he never feels helpless again, but he wants to fight without hurting others. He says that in today's world there is no need to train for war. The dream of peace from 1,000 years ago has come true. Runia asks back, what is her power for in a world without war? She reveals that the huge power inside her makes it impossible to be human, yet she cannot fly free like a dragon either. As her magic grows fast, she shouts, asking how she is supposed to throw away this burden. She transforms into a dragon, using a move called Great Inhalation. Lyod sees the phantom body cannot handle her growing magic. The huge attack makes the whole space shake, as if she is trying to destroy the world. The dragon opens its mouth to strike. A bright light shines in front of Lyod. Without warning, the simulation ends, and he is back in the real world with Kanan. Runia also appears in front of him. Kanan calls out to her brother, but Lyod stares at the princess. He is shaken by the huge power he just saw and cannot understand what just happened. Runia looks down in silence. She thanks Lyod for the battle, saying she now sees they are just too different. With that, she turns around and leaves him alone. Lyod leans back on the sofa, lost in thought. He asks himself what point there is to such huge power in a world without war, and how someone is supposed to throw away that burden. He understands now, in the world created by the anti-war domain dragons, who are stronger than all other species, suffer the most. While he sees fighting as something to end quickly, those who live for war feel like they were thrown into a new world with no instructions on how to live. He clenches his fist, thinking of Freed and how the dragons were left behind for thousands of years. Kanan walks in with a cup of hot milk for her brother. Lyod thanks her, asking if he worried her. Kanan shakes her head but admits she is concerned about Runia. She says the princess's transformation into a giant dragon was scary to watch, but what she saw most was pain. Lyod thinks about Runia. She holds huge power but is forced to act human in a peaceful world. It is like she is not allowed to be herself. He compares his own situation to hers. He has always fought to protect Arsmeria and the world she loved, giving him a clear purpose. Runia, however, must have been looking for her own reason to live during their fight. Muria joins her children. She asks if the Dragon Empire dinner party was fun. Lyod hesitates before admitting he couldn't give the princess what she wanted. He confesses that Runia has been struggling to figure out how to live as a dragon, and he failed to notice until now. Since this peaceful world is exactly what Arsmeria wanted, Lyod feels responsible for the problems it causes. Muria tells him to speak to Matilda Lindworm. She reveals the vice principal is also a dragon, one who worked hard for her race. Muria promises that Matilda can help, adding that she is a very nice person and a former classmate. Kanan is surprised to learn her mother and the vice principal went to school together. Lyod thanks Muria for the advice. The next morning, Lyod visits the vice principal's office. Matilda welcomes him warmly. Lyod gets straight to the point. He asks about how the peaceful world affects dragons and mentions his duel where Runia transformed. He asks if dragons have been suffering this entire time, forced to live with such power in a peaceful world. Matilda closes her eyes, confirming he is right. She says the anti-war domain basically erased the identity of dragons. Once the wars ended, the strength that gave dragons meaning lost all value. She explains that their huge power became useless. It only made others fear them. leaving them alone and unable to fit in. Kuon, standing nearby, listens in silence. Matilda explains that they don't love fighting, but they want to find a way to fit into human society. She says that research into places that can handle huge power led to the Phantom Dungeons. Her goal is to find the identity they lost over the past 1,000 years. Seeing Lyod look sad, Matilda tells him not to lose heart. She tells him that just noticing and trying to understand is a big step. That is likely why Rionia showed him her strength. She asks him to continue treating the princess as a peer. Lyod agrees happily. He runs toward the dragon dorms, ready to face Rionia again. Not as a warrior, but as a friend living in the same world. Lyod reaches the scene and sees a tornado of dark water raging. He shouts over the wind, demanding to know what is happening. Hyadora, the dragon princess's guardian, points to the storm. Rionia is inside the cloud. She says the princess's feelings are leaking out, building layers of defense to keep everyone away. Hyadora looks grim. Rionia plans to let out all her emotions until she runs out of energy. Lyod chooses to reach her using induction. Hyadora warns him. Even with his strength, going in with his real body is reckless. Lyod refuses to back down. He knows he might get hurt, but Rionia is in far more pain than he could ever be. He says that times like this are exactly when a friend needs to be by her side. Using Guardian Art 4th form, Shiki Baku, he jumps into the tornado to reach her. Inside the storm, Lyod calls out, begging her to answer. Rionia's voice echoes back, asking why she exists. Her sadness flows right into Lyod's mind. She cries out that her life has never had a point. She confesses that she felt a tiny hope from someone with strength like hers. She thought she could find an answer by comparing herself to Lyod, but that hope only brought more pain. Now, she is tired of holding back her feelings. Listening to her thoughts, Lyod understands the truth. It isn't that strong dragons lack emotion. Their strength forces them to kill their feelings to stop the unbearable pain. Unable to choose where they were born or how to live, they have no place of their own. He sees that her emotions are faint, but they are there. Lyod searches for a way to send his feelings where words cannot reach. The original anti-war domain was made to divide people, but he refuses to let her be locked away alone. He knows there are many things about him she won't understand, and things about her he won't understand. They might hurt each other trying to get close, but they will never connect if they give up. Deciding that a magic meant to separate people is useless here, Lyod slips further into the cloud. Rionia, fully transformed as a dragon, looks at him. She asks why he dropped his shield, warning him he will get hurt. Lyod ignores the danger. He reaches out, pushing into the cloud and using his magic to make their energy mix. He hugs the dragon, promising to share her pain. He tells her that if she lacks a reason to live, she is free to find one herself. He vows to help her search and promises to protect her so she never has to suffer for being herself again. Reunia starts to cry and the black cloud fades. As they land on the ground, Lyod holds her tight. Reunia thinks that if she hadn't killed her emotions, she would have known sooner how warm it feels to lean on someone else. She rests her head on his shoulder, thinking it is okay to be here, and wishing to stay like this a little longer. High in the sky, Kuon watches the moment. She whispers that bringing the dragon princess to their side is impossible now. However, seeing their magic mix confirms that Reunia is also a piece of the Heavenly Emperor. Kuon notes that dragons know better than anyone that the anti-war domain is the root of all evil. She swears the executive department will destroy it. Lyod opens his eyes in a vision again. He knows this place. It is where he always meets her. Arsmeria stands before him. He kneels. She calls him by his true name, Vance. She asks if he feels it too, that they are being pulled toward each other and are definitely closer now. Lyod asks if this means his domain arts are closer to what she wanted. She smiles, teasing him for being slow. She says she has called out to him many times. Images of Arsmeria appear all around him. He wonders why she always appears just out of reach. He tries to reach for her, but he wakes up with a start. It was just a dream. But a bigger shock waits for him. He is in bed with Reunia. Leo jumps up, panic in his voice. He asks how she got in, since a barrier should be protecting the room. Reunia wakes up calmly. She says good morning and points to the window. Suziri is waiting outside. Leod panics. He remembers today is Hayori's regular checkup, and he promised to go with Suzeri. Scolding himself for sleeping in, he rushes outside. Suziri greets him, asking why he looks so flustered. Leod apologizes for the wait. He vaguely mentions that some things happened yesterday. He decides not to explain further, and they head to the Ogre Empire dorm. Hayori is happy to see them, especially noting that Reunia has joined the group. Lyod sits in front of the Ogre Princess, touching her hand to check her condition. He asks if she is feeling okay. Hayori says she is. She explains that he used a lot of power during their entrance exam. Reunia asks who he is. Hayori gets a bit defensive. She reveals that a powerful ogre god lives inside her. Because of this, she hasn't been able to go out much. But since Liad saved her, she is okay now. Ryunia smiles, saying that Liad saved her too. She shocks everyone by revealing that she holds a similar small power inside herself. She says she is the same as Hayori. Liad's mind races. He asks Hayori if she knows anything about the ogre god inside her. She admits she doesn't know much, only that it is supposed to protect the ogre empire from a future disaster. She adds that when it fully wakes up, its eyes are supposed to cover the entire empire. Lyod notices Suzeri trembling. He speaks to her, remembering the magic festival. He notes that the strong mana controlling him was cut by an even stronger force. He reveals that the traces on his uniform belong to Suzeri. He asks if that was her doing. Suzeri apologizes for keeping it a secret. She explains that she used her country's ultimate technique on him. Magic made to stop an enemy army in times of crisis. Lyod understands the dark truth. Each country secretly hides power made for fighting a huge war. He had a vague idea from meeting the princesses, but he never expected it to be this serious. He hates that even though they wished for peace 1,000 years ago, nothing has really changed. Runia comforts him. She says that power brings more than just pain. It can also save others. She reminds him that he is there, so they aren't alone. Susiri and Hayori agree. Lyod thinks about their words. Arsmiria and the anti-war domain left behind a world without war, but the academy Freed built gave him the chance to meet these girls. He decides that if everything is connected, nothing is pointless. Although the shadow of war and mistrust remains, he believes the people here now can change the world. He mentally promises Arsmiria that it shouldn't be too late for them to see the world together after he does that. Suddenly, Irisiel, the holy princess, feels something wrong, a trembling in the air. Without a word, she walks away from the group. The others notice she is leaving. Hayori points out that Yuzuriha isn't there either. Kuzunoha says that lately her sister seems really busy helping out the school. Outside the academy, Kuon thanks Yuzuriha for her help in getting the automata. Yuzuriha waves off the thanks. She says patrolling is more interesting than chores, though she adds that the executive department activities are a little wild. A noise above makes them look up. A female student stands on the roof, muttering she can't take school anymore. She jumps. Yuzuriha runs forward, using flame imperial wings to catch the girl in midair and land safely. While the student cries, Kuon steps in to handle it. She comforts the girl, suggesting that if she is looking for a place to belong, the executive department will always be waiting. Kuon hands the student a recruitment card. Watching this, Yuzuriha feels uneasy. She thinks there is something fishy about the department's methods. Later, Yuzuriha reports to the dean's office. Dean Camille tells her he has arranged for the special class's summer training trip to go all the way to the Heavenly Empire. He tells her to have fun but demands daily reports while they are away. Yuzuriha is confused. She points out that the field trip usually only goes as far as the mountains on the island. She asks why they are leaving the island this year. Dean ignores the question about the change. He simply says he is too busy with work to go with them. In the classroom, the teacher confirms the schedule, a 1-week stay in the Heavenly Empire. Because the school works with the Empire, they will visit the Heavenly Sky Palace and the Memorial Museum dedicated to the creation of the anti-war domain. Lyod freezes when he hears Sky Palace. That is the place where he parted ways with Freed and made his oath to Arsmiria about the future. He admits to himself that he has avoided the place until now, afraid of going back where Arsmiria no longer exists. However, feeling that his time has been frozen since that moment, he decides this might be a good chance to start moving forward again. Kanan feels homesick, wondering if they will get to see Melita and the others. Lyod smiles, suggesting that once the trip ends, they might be able to visit their home during the summer break. He likes the feeling of finally having a home to return to. The mood in the class lightens as the students discuss the sightseeing day, excited about the famous Silver Beach and local food. Runia drifts into a daydream. She imagines herself and Lloyd walking on the beach, thinking summer memories are beautiful. Kuzunoha hugs Lloyd from behind, saying they are going to play together during free time. Susiri shouts that the Beast Princess cannot just decide things by herself. She shyly asks if she can go with Lloyd to the historical sites instead. Rionia joins in, innocently asking Lyod if she can sleep with him again because it helps her relax. Her words cause chaos among the princesses. They crowd around Lyod, shouting that it is absolutely not allowed and demanding to know what she means by again. Irisiel sighs, complaining about how noisy everyone is. Hayori teases Lyod, noting that this looks like a very exciting trip for him. Overwhelmed by the attention, Lyod wonders what he should do. Finally, the day of departure arrives, and the class sets off for the Heavenly Empire. Upon arriving at the Heavenly Empire Imperial Palace, the class is amazed by the architecture. The Beast Princesses fidget, admitting they feel nervous about being in a foreign country for the first time. A guide explains that this castle is where the eternal Heavenly Imperial lives, and where the anti-war domain was originally created. Aurelis scoffs. She says that even though the heavenly race has strong mana, No one can live for 1,000 years. She asks why the locals actually believe that. A local girl snaps at the demon princess. She says people are free to believe what they want. She explains that they follow this belief to heal the scars of war, scolding Aurelius for speaking without understanding their history. Tension rises between them until the guide ushers everyone inside. Lyod looks at the heavenly sky palace. It looks just like it did 1,000 years ago, but he feels no longing for the past. Instead, it feels like a strange place. He knows Arsmeria died with him during the ritual 1,000 years ago. Watching the Empire act as if she is still sitting on the throne, he sees the place as an empty shell with no master. Inside the main hall, the guide tells them they cannot enter the rooms but are free to explore the hallway. Lyod notices Eresiel looks unhappy. When a student asks what is wrong, the Holy Princess says she needs space. She claims they should be able to sense her mana in the hallway anyway. As she walks away, Lyod worries about her and decides to follow. Aurelius sees this and gets suspicious. She wonders why Eresiel has been acting weird lately and why Lyod would want to be alone with her. Deciding she won't let this slide, she follows them. Eresiel walks down the hallway, touching the wall. She thinks about the voice of the goddess she has always heard, which led others to praise her as a priestess. However, she suspects the voice is not actually the goddess. Recently, the voice has gotten louder, and the pain in her heart has grown sharper. It has become too much to handle since arriving at the palace. Overwhelmed by the feeling, she tries to run, terrified that something bad will happen if she doesn't leave. Lyod catches up and grabs her hand to steady her. He asks if she is sick. He thinks that she carries too heavy a burden on her small back. Just then, Aurelius arrives. Seeing Lyod holding Eresiel, she gets flustered and demands to know what they are doing. Lyod tries to explain that it isn't what it looks like. Eresiel drops to the floor, insisting it has nothing to do with the demon princess. Aurelius argues back. Suddenly, Eresiel places her hand on the floor. The surface shines, forming a black, void-like pattern. The floor gives way and all three of them fall into the darkness. Lyod acts fast. He knows he has to use magic. He activates a guardian art to form a protective bubble, grabbing both princesses to cushion their fall. They land safely at the bottom. Aurelius and Eresiel thank him for saving them. Lyod looks around, wondering where they are. He wonders if there was always a cave like this under the castle. As they start walking, he notices magic stones in the walls beginning to glow in reaction to their mana. He figures that if this were a simple mine, it wouldn't have been left alone. They must have found a hidden path. Moving forward, the group suddenly faces a massive monster skeleton. The sight terrifies the two princesses. Lyod stares at the beast. He asks why such a monster is beneath the castle. Eresiel calls it an undead guardian, a spirit staying here even after its bones have rotted. Lyod feels a pang of pity. The creature stays alone to protect something, even in death. Beside him, Eresiel's breathing grows shallow. She is getting worse fast. Aurelius looks up. The hole they fell through is gone. They have no choice but to fight their way forward. She activates Magic Eye, crimson glare on the monster. The undead roars. Eresiel shouts a warning. Visual attacks are useless against an enemy with no eyes or flesh. She scolds the demon princess for using such dangerous magic in a small cave. Without warning, the undead opens its mouth, firing a ball of dark energy. Lyod blocks the attack with a guardian wall fortress. There is no going back now. Aurelius argues that even without eyes, the target is too big to miss. She uses blood luster, shattering the monster's bones. But the pieces fly back together instantly. Lyod tries to bind the creature with his arts, but it fails. A hard truth hits him. Guardian arts are meant to protect the living. They do not work on the dead. Fear overtakes Eresiel. She loses control, unleashing the Holy Empire's ultimate power. The sound of bells rings out, followed by a massive explosion. The force is so strong that the magic stones in the walls shatter. In a second, the undead monster is gone, turned to dust. Lyod stands stunned. The magic in the blast feels familiar, warm and nostalgic. He wonders if Arsmeria is somehow here. Aurelius calls out. Eresiel has fainted, overcome by her own power. Lyod warns that the Holy Princess might die if she keeps releasing such energy. He needs to seal her magic with a domain art, but his power alone isn't enough. He asks Aurelius for help. Tears in her eyes, the demon princess nods. They join hands, combining their power to burst through the energy bubble around Eresiel. As Lyod reaches her, the world shifts. He is in a vision, back as his past self, Vance. Arsmeria stands before him, petting the dragon. She tells him it is fine now, thanking him for working so long. Lyod weeps, calling her name. Arsmeria speaks softly. Her soul was scattered into pieces, stopping her from touching the world. She admits she hurt Eresiel by accident because the girl's magic is so pure and similar to hers. She tells Lyod that his domain art is strengthening the bond between her pieces. allowing her to speak for a moment. She reveals that something she fought to protect lies in this place. She calls this a destiny she wants to leave to him. Then she begins to fade. Lyod shouts for her to wait, but the vision breaks. He snaps back to reality, holding the unconscious Erisiel in his arms. While unconscious, Erisiel floats through her memories. She remembers that because her magic was so pure, she was supposed to hear the goddess, but she didn't. Instead, she heard the voice of Arsmeria, begging her to find her knight somewhere in this world. Erisiel thinks about how she was treated. People called her the priestess of prophecy, but the abbey forced her to learn strict rules because she couldn't hear the true voice. She felt like a fake. No one really cared about her. But she remembers Aurelis. The demon princess always challenged her to duels. To Aurelis, she wasn't a priestess. She wasn't a failure. She was a rival. Aurelis was the only one who saw the real Erisiel. Erisiel opens her eyes. She sees Aurelis crying. Seeing her rival awake, the demon princess quickly wipes her face and acts tough again. She calls Erisiel a hypocrite for losing control right after lecturing her. Erisiel apologizes. She explains that she followed the rules to change how she lived and hold back her magic. She reveals it was all because of the voice. People who hear the goddess become priestesses, but the voice she heard only ever talked about a knight. Her father was disappointed with her wrong prophecies. He sent her to the abbey to be fixed. Aurelis understands now. This explains why Erisiel changed so much. She remembers that as a child, the holy princess used magic freely. But in just 1 year, she became strict and cold. Aurelis admits this change made her angry. Erisiel confesses she was scared. She thought spending time with Aurelis would make her go back to her old self. Aurelis shakes her head. She says there is nothing wrong with that. If Erisiel weren't so strict, she would be easier to talk to. Aurelis asks about the voice mentioning a knight. Erisiel nods, though she admits she still has no idea what it meant. Listening to them, the truth hits Lyod hard. Erisiel definitely holds a piece of Arsmeria's soul. He figures it out. This is why Arsmeria's shadow appears over the princesses. This is why their magic can mix with his domain art. They all possess pieces of her soul. But since Erisiel doesn't understand the voice, Lyod knows they do not have Arsmeria's memories from 1,000 years ago. Erisiel suggests they leave. Aurelis agrees. Lyod puts on his coat, putting their escape first. As they try to find a way out, the entire cave begins to shake. The crystals around them grow fast, twisting together to form a massive tree structure. Aurelis stares at it. She says it looks like the heavenly tree or Eden. Lyod sees writing at the bottom of the roots. He kneels to look at it. He knows the ancient heavenly language. He stares in shock. This tree is the core of the anti-war domain. Aurelis asks what it says. Lyod brushes his hand over the ink to read it. Without warning, a reaction happens around his ring finger. A new ring appears out of nowhere, wrapping around his finger. Before he can think, the tree bursts with blinding energy.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.